Hello and welcome to the 14th episode of Dystopedia. I'm your host Matt Davidson, and once again I'm joined by my colleague Andrew Hodgson.
How are you, Matt?
Yeah, I'm pretty well, Andrew. How are you going today?
I'm going good. How's you had a bit of an epiphany end of last week's episode with getting out touching nature. How's that gone for you?
Yeah, well, what was ironic about that? We went on and it kind of opened up this can of worms for us about getting out in nature, touching grass again. But then within 30 minutes of ending the podcast, we were on the Uber Eats app, and then going on YouTube, looking at random videos and
feeding the algorithm. And it was almost habit. It was almost like a reflex, wasn't it?
And then pulled my phone out, started doom scrolling on Instagram and Facebook and Twitter and stuff. I'm like, oh,
yeah. No, somebody said KFC. I'm sorry, I'm not trying to plug KFC, by the way.
Yeah.
So that was, the Colonel's here, and we're feeding the algorithm with fucking divorced dad rock, and it's Nickelback and Creed all night.
Oh, no. I mean, it is the perfect night, in my opinion, but yeah.
Well, yeah, you need to go out and see people when you can just do that.
Oh, no, yeah.
You can push a button and everything comes to you.
I know, it's fantastic, isn't it? The modern conveniences of the world at the moment, isn't it? Yeah.
Long live the machine, the omnipotent machine.
It is. Yeah. Well, maybe we'll start praying to it soon, right? Yeah, praise the Amazon gods.
So, yeah, the machine stuff actually really opened my eyes, but quite honestly, I've done fuck all about it.
Yeah, no, yeah. It has kind of in a way, like I'm trying to, where you just kind of feel that reflex to grab your phone. I'm trying not to do it as much, but it's still hard sometimes.
I guess you're at least conscious of it, right?
Yeah, as long as you're aware of it in a certain degree, yeah.
Yeah.
But it is crazy. When I went to my workplace the other day, I only work part-time in the office, and I was just observantly looking at people in between their work, just on their phones, or at the lunch table, everyone's on their phones, just doing stuff. They're all disconnected from each other, even though they're in the same room.
Is that off the back of that? That
yeah,
story?
yeah. I was thinking about it too, but then I find myself doing it too, because I said last week we're a bit introverted, so I try and avoid small talk at all costs. So I'll do the whole on the phone and be like, I'm deep in conversation on my phone now, or deep in thought, so I can't engage.
I'm with you, mate. It's the worst fucking thing, getting into a lift with someone and that awkward sort of, you're both sitting there thinking, is someone going to have a chat? You're like, just please don't say anything. Just fucking, can we just, it's uncomfortable silent. Can you just get off where you need to get off? And I'll get off where, and we won't say anything. And everyone's happy.
Yeah. You find sometimes, say, for example, some people get into the lift and then you kind of slow walking down. So then you miss that lift. So then you get your own one. Yeah. I do that all the time. Yeah. And then someone holds the door for me, oh, damn it. Don't hold the door for me. I'm waiting for the next one.
Fuck.
I want to be by myself. Yeah.
I want to be in my own chamber.
Yeah, exactly. I want to avoid the weather talk at all costs.
Yeah, fucking right, yeah.
Yeah, God, aren't we introverted? Jesus Christ,
yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Any social connection. We were talking about it last week, and now can't help it. Yeah. Well, have you been watching any good shows lately or anything like that?
Don't know. No, I don't think so.
Well, I just finished the show Severance, actually, so it's kind of we could probably do episodes on it, actually. It's very
I'm hearing a lot of good things about that.
No, it's very well done, and Ben Stiller created the show and directs a lot of it too, and it's got Derek from Step Brothers' brother in it, Adam Scott.
Yeah.
He plays. It's funny seeing. I always associate him as Derek from Step Brothers.
He just looks like a fuckwit, doesn't he?
Yeah, he does. But in the show, he does the role really well,
right,
being a serious person. So, but it's a weird show. It's where when you go to work, you kind of become a different person. So your brain switches off, and you have no recollection of what goes on inside the workplace. And when you leave, you go back to your normal life. So it's good for people that want to detach and not go through the motions of the 9 to 5.
Yes.
But then you find out this corporation, it's called Lumen, is secretly doing these experiments, and all this weird stuff happens. And then you find out some of the other characters are more involved in it than you thought they were. And yeah, it's a great show.
It definitely sounds like something we'll be doing down the line. Eh?
Yeah, no, it's very intriguing, very well done. And I guess I find last 4 or 5 years, there hasn't been too many shows where I'm like, oh, this is a must watch, or it's really, I don't know about you, but I've been watching shows from, maybe 10, 15 years ago, but this one was a modern one. I'm like, oh no, this is very well done. So yeah, highly recommend anyone give it a watch.
Giving Severance a plug.
Yeah. Well, I just started a show you recommended, actually, with it From. Oh my God. Oh, yeah. That's intense. Yeah.
I wonder, I suppose there's dystopian elements to it, but it might be a bit far-fetched to get it on here.
A bit too supernatural, right? You'd say?
I think so. Yeah.
Well, I'm only 4 episodes in, but
I'm sure if you search anything, you could find dystopian themes in it, couldn't you? But yeah, it might be stretching it too far,
Yeah, it's a bit
when we do From, we're probably out of ideas.
Yeah, it's a bit like that South Park episode when they're reading the book, when they wrote that disgusting book, and everyone's getting their own interpretations. Oh, no, this is the thing about the liberals, no, this is the thing about conservatives. Just like that. Yeah.
South Park reference in early today.
Oh, yeah. Oh, there'll be another one later too, later on.
Well, that brings us on nicely to our subject matter, doesn't it, Matt?
Yeah, so last week we did The Machine Stops, written in 1909, and this year we're going... Sorry, this episode, we're going to the cult classic, or kind of classic in general, right? The 1987 RoboCop by our good old mate Paul Verhoeven.
Yes, back to Verhoeven territory.
You'd say this is his masterpiece, right? This is if you're going to pick one Paul Verhoeven movie, I think this one would be the one that most people think of, right? Maybe not you personally, but like in general, I'd say.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, it was the one that kind of put him on the map, particularly in Hollywood, I think, right?
Yeah, definitely.
For me, it doesn't top Starship Troopers, but that's not to say it's a bad movie at all, because it's full of.
It's a bit like 1A, 1B, isn't it?
Yeah, it's full of wit and sharp satire and all that. So it's a great film.
Yeah, or you can see the fingerprints in this movie that later on in Starship Troopers, like similar elements and themes and like style of filming as well.
Yeah, well. But the writing as well, with a lot of the media segments,
newsreels,
newsreels, and someone, and obviously, look, we're in this episode where we always like to do a background check on the director and everything. I would recommend going back to our Starship Troopers episode because we've already sort of been through Paul Verhoeven, haven't we?
Yeah.
One thing we didn't do on that, and I don't think we gave enough credit to Edward Neumeier, who was the writer, who was the writer for both, and but this was the first movie that brought both Verhoeven and Neumeier together.
Oh, okay, interesting. Yeah.
So it's
well, they were both inspired by Blade Runner, wasn't it? That's what kind of got the motions going for this one.
Yeah, Neumeier actually worked on the set of Blade Runner as a like a volunteer. He says just getting into it. So yeah, he's an interesting guy. And a lot of the sharp satire and the critical wit, the political
discourse, the
political and social commentary,
and
the sharp sort of wit comes from Edward Neumeier. So he's an interesting guy in the sense of watching a few interviews with him. So he actually started out as like a story analyst. I think he'd said he'd read over like 5,000 screenplays, and a lot of that's what they do all day. They just read basically for like companies, production companies, that sort of thing. And he said like the majority of the screenplays that he read were just shit, but like by reading them he thought, fuck, I can do this. I found that really interesting. It gave him confidence. The worst they were, he's like, I reckon
I got a shot at this. I can make it.
It says a lot about life, doesn't it? When you're sort of surrounded by, sometimes it's just having the balls to just go and do it, right?
It kind of reminds me. I remember because when we worked in the same job, I remember you saying to me, like, mate, if you just turn up on time, do the job to your best of your abilities, basically, leave on, say a little bit overtime or something, you'll stand out above everyone else, basically. Yeah. And it's so true. Like things like that happen. Like everyone else is just so shit that you can stand out.
But if you look around you, everyone's just pretending they know what they're doing.
Yeah.
But nobody actually does. But it's just who can bullshit better. And and then you somehow just you build up a bit of confidence. You get a little bit better. You learn and you fucking stand out.
Yes.
He was he was interesting. So that's where he was like I think Edward Neumeier actually worked briefly as an executive at Universal, so that kind of gave him his experience as like a story analyst and then working in as an executive. It kind of put him in the mind of what these companies want to see, what their buying mentality is. So he knew it gave him that understanding of what was going to be greenlit, what was going to go. So it was really interesting. Apparently, he conceived the idea for RoboCop in 1981, but I think it was like 3 or 4 years before he had a draft. Is it funny story? Like he had to go and write the first draft, and he actually said to Universal that my grandfather's died. I've got to go to the funeral to take a week off, but his grandfather was already dead.
Oh wow!
You got to do what you got to do.
Yeah,
sometimes,
of course.
Right?
Yeah, definitely.
You use it.
Yeah,
but the fact he's come out and said it, we're fucking brilliant.
Bit morbid, but all right. Yeah.
I'm sure his grandfather would have said, "Mate, if you can get some positivity out of my death, do it."
Yeah. If I was in that position, I wouldn't care.
Yeah. That's it. Yeah. Yeah. So he grew up in like a liberal Marin County, where I think he was saying at the time that a lot of action films were often seen as like often seen as like fascist. If you're into that, you're a fascist, for like glorifying violence. I guess you got to think of the landscape of the 80s, right? With the we weren't quite desensitized to violence yet, were we?
No, definitely not. No, that's when it is funny when you watch this movie. Like that's the first thing that struck me. Like I guess we are in our generation, we are used to it, but it is very gory compared to other movies that are around the time, right? Yeah.
And he even says like he loves like on screen violence and everything, which was a weird thing. That him and Verhoeven both loved that, but he was often he put in the he put in the themes of satire in, and then the political and social commentary in the movie. A lot of the feedback he was getting when people were reading it, like are you sure this is funny? This isn't supposed to be funny, I guess. And that's I guess it's probably we often said it a few times. It's the time that we live in, right? It's a more cynical time where back then it was you shouldn't be laughing at like violence and things like that. That's a no. And he was like, yeah, it is funny because of this and this. He was a very hard sell for him.
It's the obscurity of it all and the, like over the top and like, like the silliness of it all, right? Yeah.
It just was like you shouldn't be laughing at this stuff. Like but yeah, I guess he was probably a bit before his time.
I guess you look at other action movies around that time, where your Terminators, your Rambos. I mean, there's a couple of silly one-liners here and there, but it's not like that sharp social commentary that you see in this film, right?
Yeah.
It's very much like. Those films were very much the good guy, the bad guy, that kind of thing. But this one's got more layered to it and a bit of like there's the criminal bad guy, but then there's also the corporate bad guy, and there's like different elements. And,
and it blurs the lines, right? They're all profiting off the same system, aren't they?
Exactly.
That's one of probably the smartest clips in the whole thing, I think.
Yeah, and even the media playing into it too.
It creates jobs, it creates news, it creates
industry.
It's like the the whole concept of like the rot economy, which we'll get into a bit later. It's all just profiting off. They're profiting off this destruction and failure of society, and why would you want to fix it when everyone's getting rich?
Yeah, exactly.
It's a very clever writer, and I just wanted to say a bit about it because I feel bad about not really giving him much credit for Starship Troopers. So funny enough, even we were talking about the violence scene. So when Verhoeven actually first read the script,
he didn't like it, didn't he?
He didn't like it, and he couldn't understand. Like he didn't understand the humor in it at all. And he
it could be a different culture, right? Because he's from the Netherlands,
he mentions that, and again, that was a bit more conservative. Like you don't laugh at that sort of stuff. Or why is this funny? Why is that funny? I think he mentions like Verhoeven decided to take the project on because basically no one else wanted to do it. He got into a lot of directors, and I think Verhoeven had just done a movie called he did a fantasy movie before this, Flesh and Blood, which actually flopped. I think the budget was like 6.5 million. I think it returned like 100,000 or something. It really depicted like a medieval time where there were like no heroes, and it sort of explored like rape and murder, and it was like really audiences weren't quite ready for it. Now, I guess you think of like fantasy movies at the time, you wanted sort of things like a bit campy, like Conan the Destroyer or something, or
Robin Hood or something.
It was like everything needed here. I guess but it's since now become a cult classic. But we're in a time now where.
Things like that were
things
unpopular.
Like that. So Verhoeven needed a movie. He needed something. So he kind of like.
I was reading too. Apparently, because he threw the script out, right, and then apparently his wife reread it and then said to him, "Oh no, I think you'd actually really like this if you took it seriously and took it on the project," and that's what changed his mind and decided to take on with it. Yeah,
and interesting. And he actually asked Edward Neumeier to rewrite the script and take all the humor out of it, which Edward Neumeier like, oh, he did, and then. He always credits Verhoeven. Like he goes, no American director would ever do this. He sort of went back to him, and Verhoeven had said to him, "You know what? I was wrong. I actually understand the humor now." So possibly that's we have to credit Verhoeven's wife, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, make me reconsider.
Yeah. And thank God, they went ahead with it.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, it's like a lot of it, just. Obviously, it's set in I've said earlier, it's got the inspiration from Blade Runner, right? Where it's the Blade Runner set in LA, right? And it's got this dystopic future of LA, where this one's set in Detroit. So, but apparently a lot of the filming was done in Dallas itself, the city of Dallas, because apparently Verhoeven loved Dallas for some reason. He was intrigued by it.
I think he was intrigued by it, but I think he thought the buildings looked a bit more futuristic.
That's true, actually. Yeah, they do in comparison. Yeah. And you can see like the panning shots, and then a lot of the factory scenes were filmed in Pittsburgh because that would have been around the time too in the 1970s when a lot of those like mining towns were getting shut down and foreclosed, and factories
single industry towns.
They were spawned. I know Pennsylvania had a lot of them, so a lot of those were filmed in those abandoned places where you can a lot of the scenes you see them driving around to it, and we see that toxic waste scene as well, which comes up later. But No, it was interesting that they filmed it all over the shop there, so it was really cool to see. Yeah, so I was reading initially they didn't want Peter Weller to be... He wasn't the first choice for RoboCop. I think you said, that maybe like Arnold Schwarzenegger was one of it.
Yeah, I think they mentioned Arnie, but he'd be too big, wouldn't he?
He'd be too big, right? And then, exactly. And he's kind of like established actor back then too, and he did like a Commando and...
Had he been in Predator by then?
I think might have been filming Predator around that time. I think he came out the same year, I think, and then also obviously Terminator, Conan the Barbarian... and the Running Man too, so that would have established in them. And then I was reading too that apparently they want Jeremy Irons as well.
Okay.
for it, but then apparently he was too tall for it, the suit and stuff, and his jaw. He wanted someone with like a distinctive jawline, because obviously RoboCop's all you see is his mouth when you're in the filming there. So
Fine looking jawline does.
Peter
Weller
does the job too, doesn't it? Yeah. Very distinguishable. But
yeah.
And yeah, apparently Peter Weller did like extensive training program, like really got in shape for it. He like spent months practicing walking like a robot. But it was funny though, because he practiced working like a robot without any the clothing or armor on, and then when he got into the armor suit, it was heavier than he thought it was. So all that training went out the window. So he had to relearn to do it properly with the armor, and yeah, apparently the suit was too big to fit into the cars, and when he was driving the police car, so he wore no pants when he was driving the car. So, and walk around, and yeah, and you know that scene too where he throws the keys and he catches it?
Yes.
Apparently that took 50 times to shoot that, because he couldn't move his arm, because the suit was so heavy, and indirectly he couldn't grab it correctly.
Wow.
So it took 50 times to do that scene. So
it's amazing they got it together, really.
Oh yeah, absolutely, because it would have been very clunky to do that. Like it just, been heavy, it would have been very like awkward to manage. I imagine it'd be really hot in that suit too, or after like filming hours at a time. So
I got to say, it's what are we, 20, almost 30 years old, and it really does stand up, doesn't it? It really does look good.
Almost 40 years.
Really?
Yeah, 1987. Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry,
Yeah, no.
Yeah, almost 40 years. Yeah.
Scary, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's funny. I think he's probably like the perfect actor to play RoboCop too. I think he looks. He's got distinctive features, but then he kind of you could see him as just any average cop, right? Like he doesn't. If you saw Arnold Schwarzenegger, you'd be like, oh, that's Arnold Schwarzenegger. It would take you out of the movie.
Yes.
So no, I think he was definitely the best actor to play the role. And yeah, I guess too. They had a lot of issues with like censorship as well when this movie came out. So the original director's cut was like it got an X rating in America, which means like that's basically like an R rating for us here. So that would have meant limited run times in the cinemas, limited exposure and stuff. So he had to dial down a lot of the violence. So when we saw how violent it is, like as it is at the moment, but then imagine what that would have been if Verhoeven had his full way. So no, it's interesting how that happened. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. Now, look, I think again, before we actually get into the movie and breaking it into parts and everything, I think historical context is quite good, because when we're looking at one of the things this film really does well is shows Detroit, shows the societal and the societal decay of Detroit, really, doesn't it? Which it was going through at the time off the back of a lot of Reaganomics and the closing of the car industry, and I think there were real world police strikes. There was a police strike in 1980, wasn't there? So
yeah,
very close to home at the time, wasn't it?
Yeah, well, I think three key factors I'd say when this film brings up and goes into a lot is like, yeah, obviously number one would be Reaganomics.
Yes.
Number two would be like the militarization of the police, and number three would be the infotainment of news. That's like the three, like I'd say, the core elements of this film, right? So for people that don't know like what Reaganomics is, it's kind of like an informal term given to the political time when President Ronald Reagan was in charge of America when he was the president from 1981 to 1989, I think, is when he went. So it was very much basically, it was like a blend of like supply side economics, free market principles, and limited government intervention. So a lot of deregulation, tax cuts for the wealthy.
That's what they call it. What they call it, trickle down economics, didn't he? Where the argument was your tax cuts for the wealthy and corporations would benefit everyone. Then you'd cut their taxes, then they'd invest more, and then more jobs. And I think the tax rate went from 70% to, I think by 86 it went to like 28% or something like that. So I guess that was the idea behind it, wasn't it?
Yeah, there's pros and cons for it. So a lot of people say that it helped end stagflation. So that's a combination of high inflation and high unemployment. So yeah, especially at the end of the 70s, we saw like the oil crisis and a lot of people unemployed, then moving away from fat manufacturing, going to the cities and things like that. So also people argue too, it led to that strong economic period in the 80s, right, where we were seeing Wall Street boom and other industries grow and expand and become big. Globalization's like starting to take off a lot too around that time. So people would say that's a big element too.
Big element, but one of the criticisms is it widened the gap, didn't it? It's kept going ever since, hasn't it?
Yeah, as you said, but then then people argue too that it boosted business investment, entrepreneurship. But then on the flip side, it increased the national debt from 900 billion to 2.6 trillion. So,
and that was off the back of defense spending. Really,
huge, especially with the Cold War and then as you said just before, like because. It's great to do all these tax cuts, but then cut government spending, but then that means that it goes, it felt like the rich got richer and then the poor got poorer, and then there's no more. Like, it affected the middle class the most, right?
Yeah, and I think he in short term he cut a lot of like social security programs, and I was even thinking like there was a rapid closure of mental hospitals, so a lot of and they were never replaced, and a lot of these a massive surge in homelessness as well for the time.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. And that was insane. And then this was around the time too in the 80s when, you know, drugs became a big thing too, with, you know, cocaine was a huge thing.
You can just say no, can't you?
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Isn't that what Nancy said?
Say yes to your life. And when it comes to drugs and alcohol, just say no.
Don't worry about the addiction side of it. No, just say no. Yeah. You tell that crack dealer down the road, you say no.
Yeah, it's that easy. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. In hindsight, looking back on it, it is like such a joke, isn't it? Like, just,
but it's I guess it's Reagan in microcosm, isn't it? You know, when we talk about, I guess, well, the movie goes on to take the piss out, I think, with ED 209 in the sense that his like tough militarization of policing, which is like, we'll just go more hardline on it. Let's not. The answer is let's just go harder on them. Not fixing the societal issues. Let's just police it harder. Which it's
got and also like the dehumanization of it as well, like treating people in the community as us versus them, suspects, and they're criminals, or like all of them, like just using that paintbrush, like that bland paintbrush to mark them all, basically. So that's basically like Reaganomics. You know, it was definitely a factor in it, and apparently the CEO of the OPC, that
OCP, isn't it?
OCP, yeah. That's apparently based on Ronald Reagan. He was
Dick Jones.
No, the head guy, absolute head.
Oh, the old guy, the old
man.
I don't think they say his name, do they?
Yeah, they say he's called the old man. That's his name. Yeah, the old man. Sorry, yeah. The old man is based on Reagan, apparently. I think it was influenced around the Iran controversy, the arms to Contra, you know, the famous one, like dealing arms
when they
illegally,
the Nicaragua,
they
wanted to support them, but Congress said they couldn't, so they sold weapons to Iran
under the count, illegally. To raise money for them,
He was technically an enemy at the time.
Yeah,
so
is that thing? Yeah. And because then Reagan played dumb about it and stuff. That was kind of like how the old man's at the top there, like disconnected from it all, like what
do they call it?
Because the guy that took the fall for it was Oliver North, the general. So he took all the heat for it. Where then Reagan played dumb with it, basically. Yeah.
Yeah, so look, there's a lot of influence of Reaganomics in this as well, isn't there? You know, where like I guess the deregulated industry sort of opened the door to, you know, automation, which, you know, we'll talk about, you know, machines taking jobs, RoboCop, you know, taking police jobs, you know, offshoring, all that sort of stuff. I guess that kind of opened the door for the collapse of really the American car industry, didn't it? Really, I mean,
I was reading, on that too. I was reading too. Yeah, apparently, American car industry was really tanking as well because the quality of the cars were going down a lot. So they're breaking down. They weren't having so many issues, and then also a lot of like local and state governments were trying to increase safety regulations. So that means that they had to do more safety features on each car, which affected the industry in total. So it meant more spending, more upgrades, more that kind of stuff. And then the Japanese were so efficient with their cars that why would you buy American car when you get a cheaper car from Japan and it's more efficient and safer?
Yeah, and that's the offshoring opening up, isn't it?
Well, you know, ironically too, because you know it portrays Detroit going broke. It literally went broke in 2013. It declared bankruptcy.
Yes. Yeah.
So like it was prophetic in that way, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. Also, actually, on the you know, fall of the car industry. You know, I mean, I guess you know, you mentioned it just before, the 1973 oil crisis probably had a big influence on that too, because I guess American cars, absolute gas guzzlers as well, weren't they? Where the Japanese ones cheaper, more fuel efficient.
Also, too, it's kind of like it's a great kind of warning too, where you should never base your economy around one industry. It should be always like kind of what we're seeing that with Saudi Arabia at the moment, because you know oil's going to eventually, people aren't going to start using renewables, go down that track in the future. Now they're starting to open things up, find other industries, and try and say afloat that way.
It's I guess it's short term thinking, isn't it? It's human nature, short term thinking. It'll be all right.
Car will last forever.
Yeah, it wasn't. You know, the car industry. Well, we'll build all these skyscrapers. You support businesses. That's worry about that in 30 years. Don't worry about it. I'll probably be dead. Who cares?
It's fine now. Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
That's why I've probably said it before. I'm a little bit cynical about reversing climate change, but there we go.
There we go.
Just that line of thinking, you know?
Yeah. I guess, yeah, another thing too we talked about, I said before, like the militarization of the police in the 80s was a big thing too. So this is when we started seeing those no-knock raids. This is when the SWAT thing came in too, was, SWAT tactics, where police were wearing, full body armor. They're carrying balaclavas, M16s. They're becoming tactical, very much like, kind of like search and destroy in a way, right? When they go in. And famously, groups like NWA and other rap groups were talking about this. And
they were profiled, weren't they?
Profiled, yeah, exactly. And especially if you look, I think it was in the LA, was Chief Bradley, who was the head of the LAPD back in the day. Like, they'd do those things where they'd get those tanks and they'd have remember that long barrier and barricade and they'd ram people's homes and there was no indiscriminately just go through it. Yeah.
And I suppose they were sort of, I guess they were looking for drug dealers, but they're just users were getting thrown in and they were just throwing the book at them as well, weren't they? Like fucking decade sentences for using and just having a little bit of weed on you or something, They were kind of like, it was just like one rule fits all, wasn't it?
Oh, absolutely too, yeah. So we saw the expansion of that, and then they were getting really, and like because the military too had a lot of influx of extra equipment from like the Vietnam War, so they were selling it on to the local police forces to use, like the tanks and armor and it's much changing hands, changing money, it's great, isn't it? The way the world goes around. So it was another thing they implemented too was the police were adopting more of that soldier mentality as opposed to being a police officer. So they weren't engaging the local community. They were, as I said earlier, they were using it as us versus them. So
you're the enemy.
You're the enemy. Yeah, it's like dehumanizing them all. They're all they're all drug dealers. They're all criminals. So
and that's what I mentioned before, the rot economy. There's no money in actually fixing the problem, is there? The money's in it's
about just prolonging the war,
you're prolonging it, but you're profiting off of the decay, aren't you?
Well, you think too, classifying it too as a war on drugs, like it's just that from that mindset, you're thinking it's something that needs to be searched, destroyed, eliminated, as opposed to something viewing it as a way of like, oh no, this is an epidemic issue within the community that we need to fix from the ground up, as opposed to like treating it as a like this foreign enemy kind of thing, right? So way of thinking of it, And that played a big role. And then also too in the 1980s, we're seeing on television a lot of the shows like SWAT, Miami Vice, this glamorization of cops and famously TJ Hooker as well. They get to mention this movie too, doesn't
TJ Laser, yeah,
TJ Laser, yeah. But it's all that good versus the bad guys. They're all criminals. We've got to take them all out. And,
that went on to influence World's Wildest Police videos with Sergeant John Bonnell.
Yeah, that crawled so that could run. So
what a great time it was then.
Yeah. I recommend anyone watch the World's Wildest Police chases with Sheriff John Bonnell. The guy is an icon.
The battle of good versus evil.
Oh, that's the ultimate good, yeah.
Yeah, and the police are the thin blue line, aren't they?
Oh, they are. That's what separates the good from evil, isn't it?
They are. I'm glad John Bonnell got a mention.
Yeah. I might insert one of his famous quotes in here.
I'm Sheriff John Bonnell. I've been an officer long enough to know that some things never change. Crooks still think they can get away, and cops will do anything they can to stop them. It's always interesting, sometimes terrifying, but it's never boring. Get ready. You're about to see what it's really like.
Yeah, I guess the last thing we mentioned too was the infotainment of news. So this is where the 1970s, like before the 80s, we saw news was very much factual. You had your Walter Cronkites and Dan Rathers reading the news very factually and reporting what was good, what on both sides of the issue, and just going straight forth from just stating facts. Where now we're starting to see more, the action news, and they're live at 6, and then the news anchor looks like supermodel or something.
WTNH. This is Connecticut's Action News with John Lindsay, Janet Peckinpah, Jeff Fox with the weather, and Bob Picosi with Big Board Sports. Now, Action News. Now, John Lindsay.
It's funny enough too.
Thanks, Tom.
Yeah, it is like that. Yeah. Wow. The president dies. His hair. That kind of stuff. All those glossy headlines trying to drag our attention span and stuff. So, funny enough, the news anchor in RoboCop was actually the Entertainment Tonight host. They used her.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because she was known as like one of the most like trashy kind of like car crash kind of reporters in a way, like and reporting on all the gossip of celebrities, and then they thought that she was the perfect person to play the role, so they picked her. I thought that was beautiful. They did that. It makes sense. Yeah, like in America, those bloody like was it Perez Hilton and all that ET and
Yep.
all that stuff. Yeah. Look at was it Joan Rivers as well? Look how fat she is, that kind of stuff. So they picked her. Yeah, and it was around this time too. So in 1980, CNN was founded, Ted Turner, CNN, and then Fox News as well. So funnily enough, to Reagan, part of the Reaganomics and deregulation, he deregulated the restrictions on broadcast TV. So beforehand, when news would be reported, it had to give both sides of the aisle their opinion, so left wing, right wing, or whatever it is. Then he decided to relax those laws a lot. So then that's when you see the rise of things like Fox News, when it comes, opinions become news, and then it blurs the lines between fact and fiction and entertainment as well. So that started popping up a lot, and I think it's called the Fairness Doctrine. So
Okay.
another thing too with 24-hour news. So before, the news was like 6 o'clock, half an hour, whatever it was. Now we've got 24-hour news. So what does that mean? So it means more content. So how did these news outlets find more content? Oh, we need more segments. We need more discussion points. We need debates. So they're trying to fill anything they can in the airwaves. And then also too, we're seeing an influx of advertising comes into it too. So then there's the news report. Is the advertisement are we having news to fill the time in between advertisements, and are the advertisements having influence on what we're reporting too?
You know what's interesting? Read and listened to a couple of podcasts a few years ago. Is a fellow by the name of Ed Zitron. So he's a technology writer. The pros and cons of technology. But he talked about, I've mentioned a couple of times, he talked about this concept of the rot economy. So you can use it for things, like I've already said here, like the rot economy. You're basically profiting off failure. Like the police, you don't want to fix the problem because there's more money in actually policing the problem. You think of the American healthcare system. Do you actually want to fix it, or do you want to trade it? Because the pharmaceutical companies. Ed Zitron actually brought this concept up with technology, but you think about how Google started out. It was like this free this resource for. I think we spoke about it last week. This resource for all of like information, and internet sort of felt like utopia, right? Now with the birth of SEO and everything, search engine optimization, I've actually had experiences myself, and it would hit home to both of us. Actually, did a journalism degree, and we get hit with all that bullshit, the code of ethics and all that shit. That it's not actually how it is, but you learn it.
Oh, but then and then the laws and stuff, and you find it's just a toothless tiger, isn't it?
It's
a toothless tiger.
All that wank.
Yeah.
And then the birth of like search engine optimization, where you can actually now basically trick Google into putting your document first or your link first online. So you're now not, your job is not to create impartial content and create great content. It's about getting in the right keywords for Google. You know what I mean? And a lot of news reports and a lot of videos and everything's kind of tying there. So it's kind of filtering out a lot of the good, the good news and the impartial news and the stuff you need to know for the stuff that's going to get you up in the algorithm for Google.
Yeah.
I did SEO writing and that sort of stuff, and I just got disillusioned with it.
Yeah.
You write your article and then you start stuffing in the keywords. This makes no fucking sense.
Yeah.
but it just
grabs the headline, right?
That was 7 or 8 years ago, so it's only got worse.
Oh no, it's a lot worse now. You clickbait stuff, right?
Yeah, and you're seeing like putting news reports on TikTok and YouTube, and it's all to.
Oh, and we're all guilty of clicking on it too.
Yeah,
I'm guilty
and
of
it's
it.
all you're not really getting the stuff that's going to sell, that's going to hit you, that's going to for your attention span, and not necessarily the stuff that's you need to know.
Yeah, exactly. I think another thing to point out too, which is important back too in the 80s, when now because there's multiple news channels and they're all popping up and they're all 24/7 or they're becoming more dramatic. Then it came this competition between ratings and the rating wars. It was phrased. So they're going to whatever they can that next level of trying to grab the most dramatic story, most dramatic element to to try and beat their competitor, get that more advertising revenue. So you can see how this vicious cycle is being fanned then. And one of the most famous sayings that was in the news industry back then too was called "If it bleeds, it leads." So more dramatic, violence, violent crimes, violent anything, graphic details. It grabs their people's attention spans, and they're going to more likely click on watch the show as opposed to just watching on it and just talking about local politics stuff. So that's why you see, even when you watch, they put on in Australia we've got Channel 9 News now. What's the first thing that's always going to be? It's always going to be a violent shooting somewhere or something like that. That's always because people are going to gravitate towards that, unfortunately.
Yep. No, that's a good point. But I think that's why this movie hits so hard, right? Because the 80s was I guess that deregulation of it, and I guess everyone's just adopted that, haven't they?
Yeah, and now we see where it was back then to where it is now. It's just it's gone to a whole nother level now, hasn't it? Yeah, it's insane.
And I guess that's what these media inserts are just so.
Oh, it's brilliant too.
Yeah.
And I guess too, on that as well is you could say like that's why RoboCop's still relevant today and it's still a bit of a timeless classic because it still has elements and themes that they were worried back then that we still worry about now. And in fact, in a lot of ways, a lot of it's prophetic and come true. So
yeah, it has, and that's a regular theme on this podcast. One more thing I actually want to get into before we actually get into the plot and everything is that was one of the things that really stood out to Paul Verhoeven with the I guess the media segment bits that were written in when it was a violent bloody story and then straight to an advert. Where I think he actually speaks about, and he says in an interview, and I don't know if he's referring to it, but he speaks about a rocket explosion in 1986, which I can only imagine he's talking about.
Oh, the Challenger, yeah.
The Challenger, when he said he was watching the coverage, when he just got over to America, and he was watching the coverage of what happened, and you know what happened. Obviously, the
live on TV,
live on TV, and it just panned to a lot of it was on the teacher, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was
she was the first civilian going to space, wasn't she?
Yeah, and she won the competition to go into space, and then. Yeah, I think it was within like a minute of the launch. Yeah, it exploded,
and it panned on her family, didn't it?
It panned back to crowd, and you see her, and you're seeing like real time her, like the realization that from her parents, like my daughter's just died, and it's so like it's odd, it's very eerie, like watching it. Yeah, it's creepy.
Yeah, and so I can only imagine that's what he's speaking about, right? And he said that coverage, and then it just goes straight to an ad break. And you're like in Europe or to Holland at the time where we know he's from, that's you don't do that. It's very different now.
Yeah, yes,
but, yeah. That was
America always leads the way with that.
Yeah, that was alien. You're like, fuck. How can you go to an ad at a time like this?
A national tragedy happens, and the next thing you know, you're getting a Burger King ad. You're just like, what?
Yeah, it was very jarring to him. Hence the media segments, in the movie, though, very much the structure of the movie is violent scene, news report, advert. Violent scene, news report, advert. You can see that's the way it is, and it's meant to. It just pops up because it's meant to drag you away from the movie.
Oh, it is. Yeah. Well, it's kind of like holding I keep saying this a lot, but like holding like a mirror to the society at the time, right?
Yeah,
all that stuff.
It is, and that might sound preachy, but it is. That's what this why this genre sort of holds up and what we're doing.
Yeah, no, it's brilliant.
And I don't know what to think with like. It's probably not. It's not a good thing at all that these movies are prophetic, but here we are.
Yeah, no,
it's only got worse.
Yeah. Absolutely, yeah. Well, yeah, I think we've set the scene pretty well of what they thought was going on at the times in the 1980s, and we can probably see a lot of the inspiration Paul Verhoeven got from making the film. So why don't we get into the plot? I reckon.
Yeah, let's get in the plot. So, in a dystopian near future Detroit, plagued by crime and economic collapse, the powerful mega corporation Omni Consumer Products (OCP) takes control of the city's police force. As part of its plan to privatize and redevelop the city into a high-tech utopia called Delta City, OCP seeks to replace human officers with robots. After the failure of their first robotic enforcer, ED-209, a young OCP executive, Bob Morton, proposes the RoboCop program, a cyborg made from the remains of a critically injured officer. When Officer Alex Murphy is brutally murdered by a gang led by the violent Clarence Boddicker, his body is used to create RoboCop. Programmed to uphold the law and unable to remember his past life, RoboCop becomes a powerful force against crime. But as fragments of Murphy's memory begin to resurface, he starts to question his identity and seek justice for his own murder. As he digs deeper, RoboCop uncovers corruption within OCP itself, discovering that senior executive Dick Jones is colluding with Boddicker to maintain control over the city through violence and fear. Bound by programming that prevents him from acting against OCP officials, RoboCop must find a way to break free from corporate control and reclaim his humanity.
Yeah, well, that's the great summary of the plot and what goes into it, but yeah, a lot to unpack there, isn't there?
There is.
Yeah. Well, I think I said in the Escape from New York episode, what really used was just some newsreels and set the tone of what the city and the landscape of the film is like, where this film does it straight off the bat, doesn't it? And that's what I love about it. It just goes bang straight into it. Yeah, like that.
You know what? When I watched it, I reckon I watched it. I don't even think I would have been 10 when I first saw this. So I remember little bits of it. I remember. I know why I liked it. The fucking dual wielding shooting, police chase is like fucking brilliant.
Oh, he looks badass, doesn't he? Yeah,
he looks fantastic. Yeah. But that's the first thing I thought. Right, your comment when we did the Escape from New York episode, like it just instantly gives you a bit of the background of the writing and the.
You understand where you are right now.
You do,
yeah. Because if you're kind of just thrown into it, you'd be like, oh, take you maybe 5-10 minutes to figure out exactly what's going on. But then when the newsreel comes on, it's like, okay, perfect.
We're right here. It's funny. I did think of Escape from New York a lot with this. I guess they're quite similar, I guess, in the political commentary, aren't they?
Definitely.
But this is far more nuanced and so much better. Like I don't really feel like I have a need to see Escape from New York again.
Yeah.
Where I think the rewatchability on this is, yeah, I could watch this one again and again.
It feels like because there is a lot of like Escape from New York has humor in it, but then it gets a bit cheesy at times or a bit too over the top, or the characters seem a bit bland, where this one, every character has its own distinctive characteristic.
And the political commentary is a lot sharper. The humour is a little more subtle, but...
And it's filmed a lot better too, right?
Yes.
Like it feels like it flows well. Where I found sometimes Escape from New York, it's very disjointed, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and this one's I think feels aged a lot better. I mean, except for probably the ED-209, the robot.
Yeah,
I mean, it doesn't look great, but that's all right.
Yeah, I mean, they had to build like a mini skewer, like little mini robot, then had to like fast forward it to make it look more effective and stuff. And yeah, it hasn't aged the best, but it's from the age. What can you expect?
We can let that slide. It's a great film.
It is, yeah, it's fantastic.
But yeah, look, we look. That's probably a great way to go in. Scene by scene when we talk about that opening montage, right? The opening news break. Yeah, as you say, we're right there. The way they open it, I think what are they talking about? Trouble in South Africa, and they're talking about using a nuclear weapon if tensions escalate. There's stupidity, and then they sort of go straight to they're talking about the Star Wars program, aren't they? And it lost gravity control. Oh, look how silly all these people are.
The president was up there or something.
Yeah, the
right?
president was up there. Oh, they lost control of gravity, and here's everyone floating around. Oh, isn't that funny? They just go straight like with a smile on their face, like they just talked about
so nonchalant.
Yeah, they've just talked about like a potential nuclear escalation and just nonchalantly moved over to.
What's the line? It's like, you give us 3 minutes and we'll give you the world.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's great, isn't it?
It doesn't. That sums it up, right? Yeah, that action news thing at the time.
Yeah, so so when that happens, you kind of now as a viewer, you're like, okay, now this is kind of setting this, really over the top world where just everyone's a bit detached from reality, what's going on. There's ultra kind of violence, ultra tensions going away, but then it's kind of like laughed off in a way and kind of just, and on to the next bit of the news, blah blah blah. Yeah.
And that's Edwin Neumeier. Like listening to him speak, he was often bemused with watching news anchors speak and with a smile on their face and just delivering like horrible stories. Like, and next up.
No, yeah. Enough about that now. Why waste more time on this? Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah. I guess we're just conditioned to it now.
We've grown up with it, so it's not so we know. But I can imagine at the time it would have been like that slow transition towards that, and then it would have been just a bit. This is a bit better phrase, dystopian in a way, right? It's very
yeah, it is. And then he and that's at this point where we go to our first advert, don't we?
Yeah, was it the heart transplant or something? Was it the heart? You could buy a heart thermometer thing, right? Wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I guess they're basically selling health as a commodity, aren't they?
Yeah.
I mean, but we're talking about the American health system.
I know it's funny too because when you first see that as someone not from America, as we are, it is a bit like you think it's a bit obscure and stupid. But in America, I think America and New Zealand are like the only two countries where you can advertise prescription medicine on television. Where cause in Australia, the most you can get is probably like a Panadol or a Nurofen, right? That's the maximum you can go to.
Well, yeah, it's just on that. Like I've been to America as a kid, but I've recently, in the last 4, 5, 6 years, been to Hawaii. I've seen America where you're watching the ads, and it takes about 5 minutes to talk about the side effects,
Oh yeah, it's like this will give you gonorrhea, diarrhea, and you're just like, whoa, what?
Well,
what?
I recently the one that's always stuck with me was Ozempic. It was Ozempic, and it's like. It may include diarrhea, heart failure, depression, cancer. And it's all like cheerful and shit. That's another South Park reference. They actually took the piss out of that.
Oh, absolutely.
One of their recent sort of doing movies now, made for TV movies, really, aren't they?
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry. Onto your point. Yeah.
Yeah. No. Just as I said, like it's very. When you first see it, it's very jarring at first because as you said, when you went to Hawaii, I've been to America a couple of times, and you see it on TV and talking about like blood pressure medication and like antidepressants and things. You're just like, what? What are going on about it?
Big pharma companies,
Yeah, or it'd be weird things too. Also, like the advertising, rehab clinics as well and stuff on TV. I remember being like, really took me out. It felt very obscure. Like
everything's a product.
Everything's a product. Everything's up for sale. So so literally, you've gone from this troubled nuclear war threat in South Africa to then cutting to about a over-the-counter heart transplant thing. You're just like, wait, what?
Yeah. And what is he signs off and he's talking about you can buy this, you can do that, and we've now got, I can't remember what, he says, the athletes edition or something. And remember, we care.
Yeah.
Just right at the end,
It's fantastic, isn't it? Yeah, it's brilliant. Yeah.
Brilliant. Right.
Well, just before we go, obviously the intro. It's funny watching the intro with the newsreels and the infotainment of the news and stuff. It really reminded me of this book I read about 5 or 6 years ago called "Amusing Ourselves to Death" by Neil Postman.
And you brought it with you. Do you want
to
do the ASMR? We got a real book here.
Oh, look at that!
Oh,
yeah,
Daddy,
yeah.
Do it again.
No, it's because I remember I was listening to a podcast. I was listening to Joe Rogan before he went insane, by the way. This was about 5-6 years ago. But it was around that time that social media, it was a documentary on Netflix came out about how we're all addicted to it and kids.
Social Dilemma?
Social Dilemma. That's it. Perfect. Yeah, that's what it's called, Social Dilemma. And it had the main guy who used to work at Facebook who helped create the algorithms. He was interviewing him about it and stuff. And he read a famous quote from this book about how the world's going towards more Brave New World as opposed to 1984. And that quote, I recommend anyone look it up, but I won't read it now. But yeah, it's really intriguing. So I was like, I want to see what this book's about. So basically the book goes into about how over time our attention spans are getting shorter. We're getting more infotainment of everything, of media, and how news segments are getting shorter and in between things. And advertisements are getting more influential and stuff. So, but yeah, I'll read one. It reminded me of this book, and I just want to read one little bit out of it because it's and this guy wrote it in 1985 too, around this where influence and how it's still relevant today, and it's kind of like how I'm sure Paul Verhoeven and
Edward
Newmeyer would have had the same outlook and philosophy on it as well. So I'll quickly read this part. So it kicks off here too, saying the viewers also know that no matter how grave any fragment of news may appear, it will shortly be followed by a series of commercials that will, in an instant, diffuse the importance of the news. In fact, render it largely banal. This is a key element in the structure of a news program, and all by itself refutes any claim that television news is designed as a serious form of public discourse. Imagine what you would think of me, and in this book, if I were to pause here, tell you that I will return to my discussion in a moment, and then proceed to write a few words on behalf of United Airlines and the Chase Manhattan Bank. You would rightly think that I have no respect for you and certainly no respect for the subject. And if I did this not once, but several times in the chapter, you would think the whole enterprise unworthy of attention. Why then do we not think the same or similarly of a news show? The reason I believe is that whereas we expect books and even other forms of media to maintain a consistency of tone and continuity of content, we have no expectation of television, especially television news.
Wow. That is really prophetic.
Yeah.
And as you say, 1985, it's very relevant. Very relevant to what we're going through.
And fittingly enough, you know what the name of the chapter is called? Now This.
Really?
Yeah. Because now every news out cuts to, okay, and now onto this. Yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm not sure you said what the book. What's the book called?
Sorry, yeah, it's called "Amusing Ourselves to Death" by Neil Postman.
Yeah, maybe Neil Postman will give us a bit of money for some recommendations. I
mean, he died in 2003, but yeah,
maybe his estate.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Everything's a product.
It is. Yeah, everything's for sale. Oh, that's funny.
So, look, I think on from this, probably one of the biggest scenes now, and the next logical step is going to have to be the, intro into Detroit, the boardroom scene. I think is
it's brilliant, isn't it?
Yeah,
It sums up like those 1980s financial bros, doesn't it, to a T?
Yeah, well, I think Bob Mortimer.
Yeah,
Bob Mortimer just sums up that real greed is good mentality, which, I mean, Gordon Gekko of Wall Street would have been around at the same time.
It was released the same year.
Yeah, released the same year. So he it's a lot of that that greed is good mentality. Just think of yourself, don't worry about anything. It's just growth at all costs. You see an opportunity, go for it. And he's the epitome of that, isn't he?
Yeah, step on others to get to the top.
Yes. Yeah.
It is. I love that boardroom scene, but just the setting of it, like the top floor, looking out over the city. They're all in their suits. All the yes men are around as well. All playing the game. Yeah, doing their bit for it, and it's where we first kind of established too. In the newsreel they established that the OCP are in a contract with the Detroit Police Department, right?
So that's a good point. So we see that the privatization of police, and I mean, prophetic in the sense now we're talking about Detroit in our timeline. We talk about, I think their population in the 1950s was about 1.8 million. So don't quote me on that. I think we're at a point now where it's barely over 500,000. So naturally, the tax base for things like policing and public, like jobs in the public sector, Like it's not there. So there are funding shortages with these things, and more they are now actually moving to privatized police forces or private security is a fucking booming industry.
Oh, absolutely. And then also too, privatization of prisons as well. That's a big thing too. Like,
Yeah.
When we saw that in that show, The Orange Is the New Black, remember? Like, it's similar kind of themes.
So again, and I'll probably keep bringing it up again and again. Rot economy. It's they are profiting off failure. It's good for them. More prisoners, more money. You know
exactly. Then, but also too, when it gets to the point too where the OCP are controlling it, then that means they're above the law. They can enforce things and turn a blind eye to certain things, right? To make that kind of sets the tone for the story.
Destruction and crime is great for them. They can kind of controlling both of it, aren't they?
Yeah,
they're just profiting.
Yeah, they're profiting from both ends, and that's where we see too. We first introduced to was it Ed 209, right? With the
yes, the ED 209.
Sorry, ED. Sorry, my apologies.
ED 209, which stands for Enforcer Droid, I believe.
I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah, Enforcer Droid 209, and here's the South Park reference. That's Chef's TV, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
The malfunctions in that. Is that the Russell Crowe?
The Russell Crowe one. Born in New
Fought
Zealand.
round the world.
Yeah.
Born in New Zealand in '64, a hot-headed actor named Russell Crowe. He loves to act, but he loves one thing more: fight round the world.
Yeah, I highly recommend anyone watch that episode of South Park. It is funny.
Brilliant.
But yeah. Well, it's kind of they're pitching their ideas, and Dick's doing his part. He's the ultimate the next in high command, right?
He's the senior VP.
He's about to make it to the top. He's trying to impress the old man, right? With the
old man, yes,
and brings in ED 209, and then they're doing that little test run, right? With it saying, oh, the guy. I love to see this. They've got like a fucking one of those massive handguns to the side, just randomly.
Yeah, for some reason.
For some reason, it's just there. But all right. I mean, it is America, I guess. But they love their guns over there.
Yeah.
But they're joking around, going, "Oh yeah," and then the thing comes in, going, "Disarm yourself. You got 15 seconds to comply." And then obviously, then it malfunctions, and this really sets the tone of the film with how gory it's going to be, because then it obviously malfunctions and just assumes he's still guilty, or a violent criminal, and this obliterates him basically. And you're seeing all the blood spurts and the bullets hit him, and they're all flying off, and obviously then it kills him, and then they're all so detached from it as well. They're more angry that the experiment failed as opposed to one of their, colleagues just got obliterated.
Well, yeah, and I think nothing sums this up more with the old man says to what is his dictionary? I'm very disappointed in you.
Yeah,
You're like, look, it's just a glitch. It's a minor malfunction. It'll be okay. You call that a glitch? And you think he's going to go, somebody died, but. No, that we've got a contract in 6 months. That's going to set us back with $50 million in interest payments alone. And he's like, someone just died, but anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
He's expendable.
Well, then the little worm that Bob is just like, here's my opportunity to pitch my idea. So then, he undercuts Dick and then pitches the RoboCop idea, right?
He does, yeah.
And this kind of sets I didn't realize it's watching the second time around I picked this up, but that kind of sets the tone to where they're going, okay, now what we'll do, because crime's increasing, this is happening. We'll move the cops around from different departments, and there's more chance that one does die, then we can use them for this experiment.
Well, yeah, that mention is like, how are we going to do it, or how do we what is it? How do we proceed? We just got to wait for some poor schmuck.
To get there.
To get there.
So back on the newsreel, apparently one of the newsreel does mention that 3 cops have died and one's in a critical condition, but then it hadn't been approved yet, so they're kind of waiting for that perfect opportunity for that cop to turn up. So
yes,
yeah. So you can see once again this company's playing both sides, right? Where it's waiting for that. It wants to control crime, but then at the same time wants to continue so they can use it for.
It needs crime to have a purpose, doesn't it?
Exactly.
To profit. Yeah.
No, it's brilliant. Yeah, that sets the whole movie up perfectly as well too. That boardroom scene. So we get to that point too where we find out that we get introduced to our main character, Alex Murphy.
We do.
He's just been transferred to the West Side precinct, right?
Yes.
From South Side. So it's established too that the West Side is the most violent and dangerous sector of the police.
What did you say? We work for our pay here. That's what the commissioner says.
That's right. He does. Yeah. Yeah, he's one of the stereotypical commissioners, isn't he? Yeah, they call. Yeah, I don't have time for this. I overheard you wear stripes.
Blowing up my ass.
Yeah, that kind of stuff. Yeah, all those 80s tropes. I'm sure they're taking the piss out of all those shows as well, which is great.
Yeah. There is another South Park reference, but I'm not going to say it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I don't want any problems. Just take him down by the books. Now get over there. The mayor's all over my ass on this one. Oh, and deputies, you screw this up and I'll have you working graveyard shift behind a desk. Move it!
But yeah, that's when Murphy's introduced to his side character, which is was it Lewis and Lewis, yeah. So then they go like on a trip together, like as partners around the city, and she shows him around and stuff. And I think before they go out as well, like we see another shower sequence. Buddy, Paul Verhoeven loves his shower sequences.
Like a shower sequence, yes.
And everyone's all code together as well. We see both men and women in the same showers. A bit of a common trend, for Paul likes.
Yeah.
Each to their own.
That's right.
But another point too is that this is the first time they mention striking, right?
Yes.
So that puts a pivotal point down the track as well in the movie. So, and then they're basically saying, "Oh, how can the police strike? It's not it's not in our nature to strike." Well, it's like, we're getting to this point where we're getting killed left, right, and center. Like, there's got to be a breaking point. So,
well, they say, police don't strike. Now, this is it probably hit home a little bit too well at the time, where there was a police strike in July 1980 in Detroit. So quite obviously, this came out a few years later, but so it's not as if it hadn't happened. So 14th of July 2000, police officers went on strike. They wanted better pay, better working conditions, stronger job protections. It was in response to the rising crime and deindustrialization and like a shrinking tax base. So just everything was crumbling around them.
Well, it kind of brings at that point too. Not directly in this film, but it's just in general. Like if cops aren't, they're getting, the wages aren't increasing, higher risk, higher, I think they're more likely to turn to crime. And when you see these corrupt cops pop up, like it's just
Is there any wonder?
Yeah, any wonder? Yeah, like I don't know, you're controversial. People go talk about defund the police, but like that's not going to solve the issue, right? Like in general, I don't understand that logic.
No, I don't understand it in that sense. But it's like maybe it is like John Bonnell. Well, I'd like to think it is like John Bonnell, where they're just good for the sake of being good, but. Unfortunately, I think he lied to us.
Yeah, no. I mean, he was a former cop, right? Wasn't he? Yeah,
he was. Yeah, I grew up believing the police were all good and righteous, but
no,
I don't think John Bonnell was lying to us.
He wouldn't do that. No, or he wouldn't skew the footage in a certain way, would he?
No, not John Bonnell.
No. Yeah, it's funny.
I don't know sound effects.
It's funny. We didn't see any the Rodney Kidney beating in it, did we? Yeah, none of that in the show, did we?
You went there.
Yeah, no, yeah. Yeah, that was never showed in any episodes, yeah. I wonder why.
Yeah, I never saw that one on the World's Wildest Police Chase videos, funnily enough. Yeah.
I might have skipped that one, so
yeah.
Anyway, stay on target, yes.
After that, we're back to we are back to Murphy and after that
Lewis.
We're back to Murphy and Lewis, who are on their they're off together driving the city, and they sort of seem to get their first assignment. We find them running into chasing the police chase with Clarence Boddicker and
his crew.
His crew.
That's right, and they've robbed the bank or something, and the money's dirty.
Yeah, the money's dirty, and so they've got the coppers behind them, and this is where you see
establish his character traits, right?
Establish his character traits, but then you see the police chase where Murphy gets out with the two guns. Fantastic!
Great action sequences, yeah.
It's what it's all about.
Well, they've got shotguns and bloody M16s and all types of weapons and stuff. And was the guy that stuffed up the job with the money got like burnt or something, right? And he gets shot as well. And
he gets shot in the leg, so they
use him as you like to fly, buddy boy. And just throws him. I love that.
Yeah, they just pick him up and use him. Yeah, he's useless to him now, so he might as well be useful.
He's actually like a really good like psychopath character, isn't he? Old Clarence.
Yes.
Yeah, he's a great character. I was reading too. He originally, he wears glasses. Originally, he was not meant to wear glasses, but Paul Verhoeven added glasses onto him to make him look more sophisticated, more like deceiving in that way, and also he kind of like him wearing glasses reminded him of Heinrich Himmler.
Yeah,
and kind of showcasing that someone that looks like that, even though they look kind of normal, but then can have the sinister evil to them that's unmatched, basically. Yeah.
Equally, I was listening to Edward Neumeier talk about him as well, and he sees a little bit of himself in him as well. Like it's like a darker side of him.
Oh wow,
yeah. He talked about. He also based it off of a fellow called Carlos the Jackal as well, who was a known sort of, some would say freedom fighter, some would say terrorist, depends what side of the equation you're in. But a lot of pro Palestine, and he was quite active during the Cold War. He obviously had a pro-Palestine, but he had a way of doing things. He blew a lot of things up and went about it.
Yeah,
went about it a certain way. But he was given refuge in a lot of during the Cold War era in a lot of communist countries, like East Germany and I think Libya and a few other places. So
So he's a extreme left-wing terrorist, was he?
extreme left-wing terrorist.
Okay,
Yes.
that makes sense then. Why, like, the communists would be like harboring him and stuff. And
Yeah, I think he was a Marxist-Leninist, and
Yeah.
he was linked to all sorts of groups, and
no, that
So,
makes
yeah,
sense.
it's based a little based off him. A
Yeah,
little
you can
too.
see that makes sense in a way. Yeah, but obviously Clarence's ideology is just power and money, isn't it? Control.
Yeah, I find it interesting. Look, we get to the point where, and this probably gets us on to the good scene next, where they obviously we lose, Murphy and Lewis lose him, and then we finally goes to the steelworks. They don't really make an effort to hide the truck or anything, but anyway,
Yeah.
so they know they're there. But you see them walking around, and they're sneaking through, and then you hear a couple of his goons talking about, oh look, we make the product, cocaine, and then we steal the cocaine, and he goes, yeah, the free market, it's great, isn't it? So it's almost like, I guess I find that, and I don't know the second time round, it's just a subtle context, and they're actually talking about, oh, how good's the free market? It's great. It kind of mirrors what's happening in the boardroom, like they're profiting off. Yeah, as we said before, they're profiting off crime, and they're profiting off the solution to that crime as well. It's kind of the same thing here. Like, there's no...
Well, it's like the white collar crime and then the street crime, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
same ethics, same.
And they're both justifying it the same way. Oh, it's the free market, you know what I mean? Like, the lines are very blurred. It's subtle, but
Well, it's
very
like
clever.
It's kind of like killed or be killed, where one's like literally that, and one's other is like one's like career wise, and one's actually like life and death. Yeah, like separating the two. Yeah, it's great that. Yeah,
I thought it was very interesting. And then this is where you see, they go in there without backup, and we get to the famous death scene.
Yeah, I mean that would have been quite shocking seeing that actually when it first came out, like, because it's you're not used to seeing the hero, the good guy, get obliterated like that. It was very
Particularly so early. Yeah,
it makes sense for the plot, but like and then what he becomes, but yeah, the way it's done is very graphic.
Yeah, it is. He actually based that off of the. He wanted to base that off the crucifixion of Jesus.
Yeah, I heard that. Yeah, with the hands and the way he's like lying his arms out.
Yes.
Yeah,
yeah, and I guess that makes sense with the whole rebirth thing, doesn't it? They I think Paul Verhoeven famously called RoboCop the American Jesus.
That's funny.
And there's a few little nods to it. We get to the end with the walking on water, and in the end, and this crucifixion and the rebirth and all that sort of stuff. So
what I like too about Clarence's group as well, the goons, like they're all. It's not like there's like a particular race or class to them. They're all different, and they're like one's like black, one's Mexican, one's white, one's Asian. Like it's all mixed. Like I find that very interesting that he chose that type of like for his criminal enterprise.
Yeah. That's a good point, because gangs at the time, it's usually
racial
race, isn't it?
design to it. Yeah, maybe he's just trying to say it's not even about what it can come from all facets or any side of the political spectrum, or like cultural spectrum. They're all got this common goal. They're all just petty criminals trying to make their way in the world, right?
I guess they're just trying to get by, like the guys in the boardroom are.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and it is like, even though like it's funny, Clarence is kind of he's loyal to them, but then at the same time they are a commodity at the end of the day too. Like he doesn't really care when one of them dies, or
No.
but then he has that connection with them too. They're all very loyal to him though, so he must look after them pretty well and to set that tone. But yeah, that's when obviously he gets taken out with the final shot to the head, right? Murphy.
Yes.
And then he
takes a few bullets before he dies, doesn't he?
Yeah, I remember thinking, geez, how did any of his organs survive? He got a couple of shotguns to the bloody chest. Yeah.
I mean, I'm guessing. I was watching it with the missus, and I'm sort of sitting there thinking, fucking hell, he's taking some hits. And she goes, oh, well, it kind of looks like he's got body armor, so maybe that's it.
Well, I guess too, that what we were saying before about the militarization of the police. Like when first time you see the cops, that they're all wearing tactical helmets and body armor and stuff. So it's kind of like setting that platform, right, where it's kind of going down that track. So maybe he had proper body armor, but he copped quite a few shotguns to the bloody chest and other areas, right?
Oh yes, yeah.
But that first bit when you see his arm gets blown off first, she's like, "Oh crap!" and the blood's splurting everywhere, and he's like, "Yeah, it's very very graphic and gory." So, then it cuts to one of the most pivotal points where he's lying on the table, the emergency room, and the doctors are trying to revive him, and it kind of like fades away. They're like, "Oh, he's dead. What's the time? Move on." Yeah, it's very nonchalant. There's no like, "Oh, we got to see him, doctor." All those movies. No, it's like another. Even the doctors are detached to a certain degree about it. It's just another job for them. But then, it fast forwards to we don't know what the time period is, but was it 90 days? I think he said earlier, Bob, when they need to get up and running. So So yeah, then we start to see his eyesight starts to change, and it's got that point of view camera, right, where he's looking up, and you're seeing random people would come to the screen, and like he's like a computer screen being rebooted and stuff. You're seeing programming pop up, and
It's very well done, isn't it?
yeah, it's really cool. Yeah, and I like that first person's perspective because it's kind of like anticipating what does he look like, what's Murphy going to be now. So, but then yeah, we eventually find out. Then he gets the programming done, and then they're celebrating at a New Year's Eve party, and they're all drunk, and then one girl kisses him, and yeah, it's very bit morbid in a way.
There is even that bit where he says, "Why has he still got his arm?"
Yeah, sorry, yeah, I forgot to mention that.
Yeah, and he's they could save it. He's like, well,
but why? Yeah,
why?
It's not necessary.
Can we get rid of it? He's like, well, he signed his police form, so technically we own him. The dehumanization.
There's no humanity at all, right? Yeah. And then kind of like, I think it's kind of weird because like you don't know what part of him's still human and what's not human, so it's kind of hard to tell at this stage. And yeah, then it kind of cuts to the next part where he's taking him to the police station, right? That's when it goes to there.
Yes, that's certainly what I remember when they, we go through there, and then he's ready to go. They have a bit of a party for him, like, oh, this is for you, and it's at this point where you sort of see him in the mirror going past, don't you?
Yeah, get a glimpse of him. Yeah,
but yes, the first bit is, I guess, when you see him walking into the police station, don't you? And
it's kind of funny because they're trying to build up this big reveal of what he's going to look like, but then they used his picture for all the marketing and promotions on the poster, so everyone already knew what he looked like. It's interesting. You're trying to build this big reveal what he is, but then we already know what he is for all the promotion, on the bloody movie poster. But anyway, it is what it is. Yeah. But yeah, it was a cool reveal though. It is. Yeah, the armor, the suit looks it looks really cool. Like
it's aged really well. I think you mentioned before, and it.
Yeah, it does. Yeah. Well, I guess the only bit of humanity you see, or any part of human resemblance, is just his mouth, right? That's all you see. Yeah.
That strong jawline.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, we said earlier. Yeah. But yeah, we see them. Then they're showcasing obviously RoboCop's like he's like the ultra superhuman machine tactical police officer. He's like shooting bullseyes. He's killing. Yeah, demonstrating his skill sets and everything.
Now, this is the interesting bit when they're saying, "Oh, this guy's a machine. He's not a this guy's a freak or whatever." They say, "No, he's not a man. He's a machine." And there's that fear of like automation taking your jobs, which I think is a really good talking point.
No, definitely.
We're at a point now where I guess, and it's interesting you're talking about the strikes and stuff. You would go one of these because. Essentially, robot, all he needs to do is have some sort of baby food to keep him going. He doesn't need anything else.
Yeah.
You pay for it as a once-off. He hasn't got emotions, he hasn't got needs, he just does what he needs to do, We spoke a lot about AI last week, didn't we?
Yeah. No, he's purely programmed just to be a cop. That's all he does, yeah.
Yeah, and that's where, we've touched on that, but look, like in the real world, I guess you see things like he's got like robots, he's got like a body cam like system, hasn't he? Which is just normal now, isn't it?
Yeah, I guess I didn't think of that, but like looking back on it now, when it was released, the idea that everything was recorded would be such an invasion of privacy. And when I think the only time he records is when he reads the Miranda rights, I think. But then you assume everything's being recorded no matter what at all times. So yeah, that would have been such a foreign concept. But for us these days, like. Body cam's very common. Like all cops wear body cam now.
Yeah, so much so that even now, like doing some research, AI is like integrating with body cam.
That's a bit freaky. Isn't it?
To pick up trends of because they reckon about only 1% of body cam actually gets used and reviewed for things. So it's picking up trends and things that could become an issue and to build up a bit of a picture. It's actually quite scary, really.
I'm thinking more of the factor that it could misrepresent something or entice something to go down a certain way, Well,
there is a genuine fear with like AI being integrated with policing where it's got to at some point build up a bit of a database of information, and if it's picking that up, it's it's just places where that are over policed, but it's more a systemic failure. You might. Let's just say, for example, in the projects or something where the majority of people are African American, and it starts picking up, and the crime rate's slightly higher, not because of any other reason than it's a societal issue, but it's almost getting a bias on that.
It could be a multi-layered issue, but then now it's only focusing on one aspect of it and targeting it.
Bias. Yeah. That's what it's seeing, and it starts building up a picture. So it's almost based on a flawed system, right? So it's no better than us, really.
Yeah, no, definitely. Well, yeah, at this point too, with RoboCop's like he goes free roaming, right? Grabs the keys, goes driving, and he's interacting with whatever crime he comes across. Right? Well, the first one's the armed robbery of the store, right? And then I think it's the first time, one of the first times we see that I could buy that for $1. Yeah, it comes up. Yeah, yeah. It's on the show in the background, right? But even though he goes in there, diffuses all the situation, but it's still very, because he obviously he's a robot and the cyborg. Like it's just very it's still ultra violent the way he handles criminals too. There's no like trying to detain them. He throws the guy around, breaks him, and smashes him into glass, and then just walks off. Doesn't even arrest him. Like it was very it showcasing that policing
phone book justice.
Phone book justice, exactly. Yeah. But then like there was no purpose to it. He just fucking had his way with him and then moved on. Like
I know why I love this as a kid.
Yeah, you think it's so badass, don't you?
Yeah.
But then obviously he's doing a bit of crimes, then sort of helping out where he can, and then I think it was at the scene too where he helps that lady she's about to get like sexually assaulted, right? And then
interestingly enough, that was the one scene that Paul Verhoeven added into the movie.
Oh, okay,
one and only scene he added.
Interesting, yeah. No, I think it's a good scene actually because it kind of like sets the tone and it really shows how dehumanized RoboCop is because he shoots the guy through in the dick basically through the dress and everything. Yeah, it's a bit comical in that way because normally at that scene too where in cop shows or in an old Clint Eastwood movie, that happens. The girl comes up and thank you so much, and then they're like, oh yeah, no, anytime, and they're a bit like that, yeah. But then he's just like, oh, sorry, you seem distressed. I'll call the late rape help center, and then it moves on. Like, it just really shows that lack of human connection and very detached, right? Yeah, because he's a cyborg, so it moves on. I think they created that scene just to set the tone for that. So yeah,
what's interesting in this scene as well, and we sort of didn't touch on this in the boardroom, but they're talking of like Delta City, like the gentrification. So there, you see, I think it's one of the first points where you actually see on the billboard, the Delta City. The future has a silver lining. So almost like it gets you like talking about like that gentrification. Like that's their response. The response is like the city's gone to shit. Let's just not fix it. Let's just let's just create a new city. Like it reminded me a bit of Akira actually, because when Akira like all the slums and the bad areas all on like the bottom levels of the city and all the elites are in the high rises. It had that kind of that real that metropolis on steroids feel to it, that future city of living tomorrow. Well, there's that solution, and you see it a lot now with a lot of areas that were once bad or like crime riddle that are all becoming gentrified, and it's like they put in a few new buildings and a few restaurants and wine bars, and then it's almost like fixed. Like you're not really solving the problem; you're kind of just masking it. And all the while, like there's the fucking displacement of the residents, so the lower income residents after where are they going to go, and there's like a loss of culture, and often these places like over-police, it's almost like a form of colonization, really.
Well, it's kind of what we touched on last week too, when you say like we go to places like Dubai or something, and they're building these like manufactured cities with biggest shopping malls and the biggest this, and it feels like there's no substance or culture to it at all. Yeah, it's a bit similar to that.
Yeah. And it just shows that in this, I guess it just becomes another opportunity. All this crime, it just becomes another opportunity for gentrification, and we're going to build this, we're going to create jobs, but fucking don't worry about the issue. A few new buildings will fix that.
They'll gloss over everything. Yeah,
human nature. Yeah.
I think another important point too, when RoboCop's still doing it, is when they go to the next scene where the ex-mayor's got those people hostage.
Yes.
Yeah, and I didn't realize this, but apparently that was referencing the in San Francisco. Remember that Harvey Milk guy who got killed? Remember the movie that Sean Penn and James Franco, when that gay, he's the first gay elected official, and he was killed in his office.
I've not seen it. No,
it's good, very well acted. I think he won an Oscar for it actually, Sean Penn. But yeah, it was referencing that because it was an ex-employee, office official broke into the office and he killed two council officials, which one of them was Harvey Milk, and that's what this was referencing to. And it famously brought up this. It was called the Twinkie defense. So basically, his defense lawyers said that because he was on a Twinkie diet, it affected his judgment and made him go crazy. So there came this thing called the Twinkie defense, and in that scene,
it's like the Chewbacca defense.
It's like the Chewbacca defense in a way, yeah. And in the scene, there's a part too where the guy grabs a bar, and it's like referencing that defense.
Oh, that's
it's really clever. Yeah, I thought that was really cool.
That scene I found pretty funny. Like talking, the mayor wants a recount, and then he wants a new car, and he wants another seats, and he's like all the demands films aren't really based on anything. It's like I always say, is that having an attack at like the consumerism of the day?
Oh, absolutely. I think it was. Yeah.
There's no, in the past, people used to fight for, he might have been all right. He might have been going about it the wrong way, but he might have had some sort of message and why he was doing it. Or some political message or some fight for freedom. But now it's all, I want a car.
And it's just like how, and what's his job back? It's like after doing it, how are you gonna? You already killed someone. Like how's it gonna? But the whole thing. But also to it really showcase like the vulture nature of the media too. They're all there like, get out of the way, sensationalization, and trying to find an action shot and everything like that. So, but like that's when we see like RoboCop go in, and then that famous scene where he like breaks the wall, and pulls him in. Yeah, I love that scene and throws him through the window. Yeah. Well, then because in that scene then too, when he's thrown through the window, then we cut to another newsreel, right?
Yes.
And then that's when it's like, RoboCop, who is this guy? Yeah, the new hero of Detroit, like kind of thing, and glamorizing it all, and
then that's where he goes to the school, doesn't he?
Yeah, the bloody propaganda. Yeah.
Have you gotten into the state of kids? He's like, stay out of trouble.
It's great. Oh.
Yeah, and then I think at that point where they're talking about something quite serious, and I can't really remember what it is, but they go...
Yeah, I think it's the point to...
Yeah, no, I think it's when they're going to talk about the police strikes, and then they go, but first, and then we cut to Nukem.
Oh, that's great, isn't it? That's my favourite commercial.
I pissed myself at that one. Yeah, like, completely taking the piss out of, like, get them before they get you. It's kind of that, like, first strike, mutually assured destruction mentality.
Oh, it is, yeah.
Like, Pakistan, I'm cutting you off. I'm boycotting you. You cross my border. Nuke 'em.
Yeah. What's great too, because like Battleship is such a sophisticated game, and then just like, no, just nuke 'em, bang, done, game over. It's fantastic.
Yeah, that was probably the best bit of satire in the movie. I would think it all culminates in that moment.
Yeah, that whole Hasbro for the whole family kind of thing. Like
But again, it's like that. It's like that desensitization to it. Reagan under his reign was actually known for. I mean, what he famously called the his particularly in his first term, his like anti-Soviet rhetoric. To call him the evil empire and almost like goading, like pushing us to the brink of nuclear war at times. Famously in 1983, they had this Able Archer. It was called. It was like a yearly war games the military would do, like nuclear deterrence, the defense, and a lot of like the Western European powers would get together. Apparently they were so realistic that genuinely it came out years later in classified documents that the Soviets were very close to actually scrambling fighter jets and firing ICBMs.
Oh wow!
Yeah. That's really but because it was at a time of real heightened paranoia. I think this was 1983 was the year. Then we've already referenced it on this podcast before. Cal 007, the Korean Airlines flight, was shot down in Soviet airspace, killing all 269 passengers, and they were. It was. I think relations between the two were at an all-time low, so we were right on the edge of possibly something happening.
Absolutely.
So I think there's more to that Nukem game than
more than meets the eye.
In Reagan's, a lot of Reagan's rhetoric in his first term. In his second term, I know. Let's say Reagan, he stepped back, didn't he? And he was, I guess he.
It was when Gorbachev came in, right? So,
and Gorbachev doesn't get enough credit.
Oh no, he's
because Reagan seems to get all the credit, but it's Gorbachev.
Yeah, I mean, it came to his own downfall in a way. Gorbachev, the way that was.
But all the more reason to give them that credit, right?
In the greater scheme of things, he was the real hero in the circumstances, wasn't he? Yeah, he deserved a lot more credit than he got. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Well, people always talk about the most pivotal leaders of the 20th century. Like obviously Churchill and stuff are up there, but like I'd have him up there too.
Yeah, I mean, look, what I'm going to say is quite controversial, but I remember when he died in the same year, and I think only.
2019, didn't he? 2020?
I think it was 2022. I think it was. I think it was around the time of the Queen dying, and in the global outpouring for the Queen, but initially Gorbachev wasn't mentioned.
Yeah, he died in August 2022, so just before the Queen, I think.
Yeah, sounds quite controversial, but there's a bit of disparity there. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
You're thinking what Gorbachev done?
Yeah, no, definitely no. He definitely deserves these accolades whenever he gets mentioned. So, yeah.
Yeah, but no, I know we're off topic here, but yeah, that Nukem ad segment really gets you thinking. There was about a lot of Reagan stuff. I think he even joked at one point. He was overheard saying like bombing starts in 5 minutes, like he just having a bit of a laugh. It was just like fuck. So it sounds like some like Trumpisms,
Yeah. Well, it's like kind of the first time too. It's like playing a video game in a way, right? Yeah, it's very, very detached. Yeah.
I mean, we talk of and it's referenced in this movie. His Star Wars program. Yeah.
Or thinking that newsreel mentions that, doesn't it? I think as well.
It mentions it, well, and it gets a little mention later, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, where the Star Wars program, which is was it the Strategic Defense? The Star Wars it was known as Star Wars in the media, but the Strategic Defense Initiative, the SDI, where it was like you see some of the promos on YouTube and some of the time when they're talking about it, like the way they're selling it, a lot of the propaganda around it.
Well, like typical like 1980s graphics as well. Where it's like boom and like shit. It's like a missile command game or something. Yeah.
Yeah, and I guess look for anyone, I'm sure, but anyone doesn't know what it is. It was like it was a proposed space-based missile shield that was made to like intercept Soviet ICBM. So I think he'd said it'd have like nuclear-powered lasers and wet rail guns that could shoot up missiles from outer space, and it violated the 1967 Outer Space Treaty, by the way.
Yeah.
Obviously, allowing nuclear weapons into space.
Well, this program was a big reason why tensions escalated too. Like, the Soviets were very concerned about it too, and it was, even though it was meant to be defense in a way, but it could have meant that they could just strike anywhere from outer space to the Soviets.
Yeah. And it's funny. It's because of the way it was marketed. It was never close to getting done. It was impossible. Even
now, it's impossible in a way.
I mean, you think of the International Space Station. I think about $150 billion.
Yeah.
I mean, to move anything in space, it's I don't know what the cost of that. It's fucking astronomical.
Yeah.
Does it have some sophisticated?
Well, I think the name's very fitting, Star Wars. So yeah,
but I think people genuinely, the way it was sold, they genuinely thought it could happen. And,
they did. Yeah.
The Soviets thought it too.
They were very concerned. Yeah.
But a lot of people actually, whilst raising tensions, a lot of people actually credit Reagan with this is a reason for the abolition of nuclear weapons too, because I guess we talked about his his spending and his defense spending with this proposed thing as well. It kind of, the Soviets could never keep up, and they're trying to keep up. They're trying to compete. So in some ways, it may have.
So I guess it's all about perspective.
It's all about perspective, isn't it? Yeah. Whilst it escalated them, they kind of couldn't keep up economically. So they. Yeah, I don't know. It's one of those pop culture things. It's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah. No. Yeah. It's like the 80s, very, very much on a nice edge, wasn't it? With the way things were going, like it's kind of like in a way with this way, with the financial sector, where it was all Reaganomics, where. Because like nuclear war, it always felt like inevitable in a way to a certain degree. It felt like it was going to happen, but then it's like everyone was in denial about it, so they kept on like distracting themselves with other things, like like prospering and making growing their businesses and stuff. So no, it's a very bizarre decade, the 80s.
Very very bizarre. But even thinking about it, the whole Star Wars thing, it kind of reminds me of it maybe ED 209 is a reference to that.
Yeah,
the way it looks, it was something that could never work. We see later when we get into the scenes, it's not really fit for purpose, is it? But it can't even handle any stairs or anything. Yeah. I always think that's a subtle dig. at the Star Wars program.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, I think most likely too. Yeah, that's funny. That. Yeah.
Sorry, that got us off there. But
to quote Star Wars, stay on target.
Stay on target. We should probably drop that in, actually.
Yeah.
Stay on target. We're too close. Stay on target.
Yeah, so after the newsreel stuff, we get to the point too where so Murphy's back at the station, and Lewis passes him because she recognizes him and calls him.
And he was like dreaming or something, where you can see the.
Yeah, he's dreaming
of his death. Really.
His death. Yeah, he's recreating the death. That's right.
So is this the point where? And I guess we get to the point like, what is humanity?
Oh yeah, who is Murphy now? What is it? Is he still got his soul in him left, or is that
And it's kind of actually just thinking about this now brings you back to, I guess, the philosopher Descartes. I think, therefore I am. We're basically saying I know I'm alive because I can dream.
Yeah.
Is this the point where is that what makes you human? You know what I mean? It kind of, at what point are you human? What about him is human? It's very hard. It's very ambiguous.
Yeah, it is. That's very true. Because Lewis, like, she by calling him Murphy, it triggers that. And then he's having those flashbacks of the house. I love too. It's like that scenic house. They're waving goodbye to him, and it's like
it's a bit cringe, isn't it?
Yeah, it's got the Joneses feel to it. Hello, yeah,
perfect family.
Yeah, perfect family. Oh, by picket fence, beautiful neighborhood in the cul-de-sac.
I've got something to tell you.
Yeah,
I love you.
Yeah, that stuff. Yeah. Well, he's walking through the house, and as he's walking through, he's seeing what is his son watching TJ Laser, doing the gun trick, and then the I love you the kind of thing. And I think originally Paul Verhoeven, there was meant to be a scene where family dog's meant to be there,
right?
And even the dog doesn't recognize him anymore. But they cut that out because it would have made it too I don't know, not emotional, but too kind of
it would have been quite powerful.
It would have been powerful, but I think they didn't want to put too much of a dampener on it, kind of thing. They wanted to make him just go through it, through the memory. Well, yeah, because at that point he's trying to remember. Then he captures one of the criminals, and then he recognizes the criminal. Then goes back to the police station. That's when he discovers that
he's Murphy. He's dead.
He gets the aliases of the criminal. This is the guy at the gas station. That's right. Sorry. Yeah, he gets that one guy at the gas station. Gets the guy's name, and goes to the database. Then sees that guy's aliases, which has Clarence and all the other goons that are part of it. And then then he finds out that their Clarence is a cop killer who killed him, basically. And he finds out Murphy's deceased, and then that's when he's getting that identity crisis. Is he still Murphy? Is he a cyborg kind of thing? So. Yeah, it's definitely like a real like kind of he's getting a bit of his humanity back in a way, right? Or just a bit of self-discovery.
Yeah, that's right. We get to that point where he goes back to his house.
Well, that was after that. Sorry, yeah. The house, but it already happened because he already went back to the house because that's what triggered it, right?
I think so. Yeah. Look, just on the house scene, like when he walks into it, and then you see the we talked about automation taking jobs, but when you got the virtual real estate guy there, I found that quite cool. It kind of got me thinking also about the I guess we touched on it briefly before, but the police's thoughts on fear of him taking their jobs. It reminds you of kind of what's going on like today with like the birth. I mean, we talk about the fear of AI taking our jobs and stuff, but you got to think now where we are now, it's quite normal like to go to the go grocery shopping, and what do we all do? We go to the self-serve, and that's been here for at least 15 years.
Yeah, well, apparently even if you go to the Amazon factory, you see all those robots just running around, grabbing the stuff off the shelves and packing them and stuff. There's like barely any human interaction in it. It's all self-automated. Yeah. I
mean, I've only got to think today. Me and Mrs. went out and had some lunch, and they had like a self-serve thing, or you could go up to people. I'm going to the self-serve thing.
Well, I'm scanning the QR code and ordering off the menu.
Yeah, I don't want to talk to anyone. I'm like, bang, 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 bang. It's more efficient.
Just like the elevator we said earlier in the episode.
yeah, that's it. But yeah, there's we think of like police or technology taking police. You think of like in China with the cameras using facial recognition, and it's for your safety. So the way they're policing, but they've actually brought out a humanoid police robot to supplement the police force.
Oh wow!
You have a look at it.
Yeah, that's crazy.
I think PM01 RTG. So they feature facial ID. They got like net guns, stuff they can use, but they're there to supplement the police force. Essentially, it's crazy. You can move at a pretty good pace. I mean, you think there's actually a spherical object. Actually, from memory, I can't remember what it's called, but it actually like a sphere essentially. That torque spindle we talked about in Wolfenstein. It like rolls around and patrols.
Oh wow,
crazy. Even looking into this, you've got car manufacturer Chery, the Chinese one, they make the electric cars, and then there's the cheaper cars come out of China. In their flagship store in Malaysia, they've got it's called a AI Moga. So it's actually a sales assistant, a humanoid robot sales assistant, can speak in 10 languages, spit all the facts back to you, everything like that. So it kind of takes away from that.
Probably can read your facial expression and stuff too.
And it takes away from the pushing of I guess that pushy sales tactics. The response is really good, and you can understand that, right?
Oh, to be honest, I'd rather talk to that than sales person.
But there's this fear. I mean, that's taking sales jobs. I mean, we've already spoken about the self-service taking. There's all these jobs. As of next year, a company called Zyrex in the works. I think 2026 is due to be announced. It's called a Giantroid, so it's a 20-foot robot built for construction.
Oh wow!
So addressing labor shortages. Here we are, see?
Yeah,
it really mirrors what's happening in RoboCop. But it can do things like construction. It's like basically the size of a crane. It can sort of destruction and tear buildings down, that sort of stuff. But it can actually do things like welding and all this other stuff. I was like watching it. It's like, Jesus Christ! But it's coming in. Oh, we're addressing labor shortages, but and how long? How long? Like before, the cost of I think Tesla, I know Elon Musk, the Musketeer is doing something. They've got in the works, what do they call it, an Optimus robot designed for labor replacement.
He's keen for doing that.
Yeah, I was looking online. I think they're saying one of these to $20,000 to $30,000. I mean, and it's designed to do like repetitive tasks, and now this is like. Yeah, well, labor shortages.
The chickens are coming home to roost now,
aren't
they?
Yeah. So, and you can, I mean, how long? I mean, company's going to just buy one of these for 20 grand. It never breaks down. It doesn't have any rights.
Doesn't
it's not going to go to...
Doesn't need sick leave. Doesn't need holiday leave.
It's not going to go to HR if I talk to it like this. You can see the pros, can't you?
Oh, yeah. See why it's lucrative, right?
Yeah. And that's why in many ways, with RoboCop, I guess it's...
Well, it's addressing it's asking these questions back in bloody 1987, and it's still it's becoming relevant now.
Well, and that's the thing. He is brought in as a response to, I guess, RoboCop is brought in as a response to, I guess, the police strikes. I guess the cutting of funding, labor shortages. It's all those. It's brought in under that guise, aren't they?
Yeah.
Just as China's facial recognition software or closed CCTV footage is bought for safety.
Yeah.
Well, the Patriot Act was brought in for safety.
Exactly. Yeah. No, it's funny because with the the thing, we don't strike, we don't do this, where the OCP want them to strike because it gives them the perfect excuse then to deploy the either more RoboCops or the ED 209, right?
And it's more likely for people will actually be on their side, won't they?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, it kind of cuts. Was it that one where they're doing the vox pops on the street, and there's people there going, "It is not right for the police to strike. They should never do that. They're here to serve the community." And there's some kooky hippie guy being like, "Nah, man, man, it's like
it's a free society, man. Nothing's free."
That's a good parody of the way those vox pops are. Something so stupid. Yeah, so it's at this point too. So Bob's he's bragging, but he's got himself set nice for the VP role. He's looking very comfortable. He's finally achieved what he wanted to achieve, and he's talking a bit of smack about Dick in the famous toilet scene.
In the executive bathroom.
They need
a gold card to get in with.
I love too. It's got stock markets on the walls too. Yeah, the live updates. It's brilliant. But yeah, he talks about how who cares about he's an old fossil now, don't have to worry about him. He serves his purpose now, that kind of thing. And then overhears it, and they have that argument about, I get the banter and this and that. I'd call my boss was it a bonehead or a boner? And
I'd call him an asshole.
But I never stood on his tracks or something like that. Yeah, and that kind of sets the scene then when Bob's about to celebrate. He gets those two women with him at home, and
well, there is one thing that actually Dick says to him in the mirror, and he says who cares if the ED 209 didn't work? We could have rolled it out, and there would have been 25 years of guaranteed replacement parts. So he's almost that right there is that who gives a shit if it works? We're going to make so much money off of the repairs and everything.
Yeah, don't worry about the other side of it. Yeah.
And that's that thinking. It's greed is good, profit at all costs. We don't want to make a quality product. Fuck that. It's that mentality.
Yeah, we want to improve quarter two profits.
That's all that matters.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But then we cut to the scene where he's celebrating with the two bitches, right?
Yeah.
One of the best lines that. Funny behind the scenes too. Apparently, the reason Paul Verhoeven was very he always call I think the actors by their character names, whatever they were. And he just basically they're saying because they're meant to be prostitutes or something or whatever, and he just referred to them as bitches. So, and then all the other actors
we're getting demonetized.
All the other actors just thought it was hilarious. So then the actor who plays Clarence just said, "Bitches leave," and then they thought it was so funny they just kept it in. So I love that kind of thing. But yeah,
how you doing? Bitches leave.
Well, then, so it's funny too. It kind of shows that rule, that 1980s financial bro culture too. With they're all doing coke with each other. He's doing coke off,
off her tits and
tits, and then on the table and everywhere, and they're all celebrating. And and then Clarence walks in and delivers the news via a CD about how he's been undermined and
DVD,
yeah, I know the foreshadowing.
Oh yeah.
And Dick's he's checking him out or something, wasn't he? One of those silly lines he used it.
Dick Jones, he's checking him out.
Yeah. So he's kind of it's one of those things why don't we just kill him? But because he wants to make sure that before Bob dies that he knows he got screwed over by him. Yeah. So it's not. I do like that scene too. And then
But it comes back to bite Dick Jones on the arse. That sort of thing when we win the next scene with RoboCop, doesn't it?
It does. Yeah. It does. Yeah.
But anyway.
So we had. Well, then poor old Bob gets blown up. His house gets blown up with a grenade. So then, after that, then RoboCop then tracks down Clarence and in the gang in the factory, the cocaine factory, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And wants to, he like, shoots them all with that big shootout and everything like that. Goes full RoboCop mode, doesn't he? Yeah. Takes all the bad guys out, and then arrests Clarence, and then that's when he starts recording, and then Clarence starts saying, "I know Dick Jones. He will get me out of this. Dick Jones hired me. Blah blah blah.
I work for him. He runs the cops.
He runs the cops. Yeah. And he." I love that too when he takes him down to Clarence down to the station and then books him in. He's like, "I book him," and he goes, "What's the charge?" He's a cop killer. And then he spits on the thing and goes, "Give me my fucking phone call." He's such a good character.
He knows he's all right.
Yeah, he knows he's protected. So, well, then RoboCop figures out that Dick Jones obviously is behind the whole thing, and we're thinking, okay, Dick Jones is about to get his comeuppance for his crimes, and then as he goes to arrest him, there's a secret program in RoboCop where he's not allowed to touch any OCP officials.
That's right.
But then, of course, as all good villains do, they have to spill their monologue to explain the whole situation, like in any good film. So
they do.
Yeah, so Dick Jones explains he's behind everything and he's going to corporatize this and climb up his ladder, and he's the one who killed Bob all along. And
I'm sure it won't come back to bite him in the ass.
Of course not. No. He's just yeah. And I don't know if... I'm assuming Dick Jones does record everything because that's mentioned later on. But yeah. But anyway, he spills his guts to RoboCop. And then out of nowhere, we see the old ED-209 comes out and shoots and obliterates RoboCop. And then the cops are sent to...
this is where ED-209, it goes down the stairs and it can't get down the stairs and it sort of fails.
Yeah, that's good. Right. And then they view RoboCop as like malfunction, and then all the police force start attacking.
Just turn on him,
yeah. It was kind of funny too. It kind of sets up that the people, even though there's all these robots and cyborgs things going around, but the biggest enemy of RoboCop is actually humans in a way, right? So the police,
he's built to he's built. What are his three?
What's the 3 laws of robots, right?
Yeah, RoboCop's 3 laws are what? Number 1, serve the public trust, protect the innocent, and uphold the law.
Well, yeah, what's funny, it's actually like a play on the 3 laws of robotics written by Isaac Asimov. So that I'll just really read those laws out. So the first law is a robot may not injure a human being or thorough in action allow a human being to come into harm. Second rule is a robot must obey the orders given to it by human beings except where such orders conflict with the first law. Third and the last law, a robot must protect its own existence as long as such protection does not conflict with the first or second law. So that's the law of robots. So it's parodying that in a way.
Okay.
Yeah. But then, as we said, we find out there's a secret 4th law in its programming where anyone that's OCP, it doesn't touch. So it starts to malfunction. So there we go.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's at this point too. Yeah, then the cop starts wanting to get him, and then he gets saved by
Lewis.
Lewis saves him, and then that's...
I've got to say, she was only with him for like half a day, and she's very attached to him.
Yeah, very, very strange. Yeah.
Maybe she feels guilty about his death.
Might have been a great half in a day. You never know.
Yeah, who knows?
Yeah. Well, this is the second time too where it's kind of like RoboCop's being rebirthed again, but this time at his own hands. So he repairs himself, right?
Yes.
Because obviously he's shooting mechanics are off. He has to repair himself, stuff like that. She gets the drill and guns and stuff.
Yeah, and well enough, he actually finds the his shooting mechanics are off, but he fixes them just in time before Boddicker and the boys arrive.
Oh no,
right, it's very handy.
Well, before that scene happens, sorry, but yeah, we find out in the background the reason why they can sneak around the police station and grab whatever they want is because now the police are on strike.
Yes,
I think we found that from the newsreel again, but
the city erupts into chaos.
Yeah, that's when that sets the scene, and then when Clarence gets out of jail, he goes to Dick's office and then basically says, "You're an idiot. You recall everything when you were getting arrested. You spilt your guts on everything." And then he goes, "Well, I was getting bloody obliterated by what do we need to do?" kind of thing. And he goes, "Well, you have to fix it. You have to solve the issue." And he goes, "Well, how am I meant to do that? This guy is an unkillable machine." And they're having like a mini fight. And then he goes, "Well, with this Delta City coming up, there's going to be 2 million people here. Think about all the prostitution, the drugs, this. We need someone like you to run it all. Imagine the profits you get." And he gets him in the forefront, Yeah, you scratch my back, I scratch yours. Yeah. But for that magical dream to happen, you have to take out RoboCop. And he goes, "Well, I need some proper weaponry because this guy's a human killing machine. Well, not human, but he's a machine basically." And he goes, "Well, basically at OCP we are basically the military, so we can get you whatever you want." So I love that scene too.
The military industrial complex.
Yeah, it's perfect, isn't it?
Yeah.
So, And it's when they get given those like sniper rifle explosion guns, whatever they are.
Yeah, it's like a grenade launcher or something.
Yeah. But then, as you said, then we'll later get into the point. Then that's when they track down because then he gives them the tracking to where RoboCop is, and that's back at the factory again. So that ensues the
final act.
Well, the final act, yeah, the gunfight. And another thing I found interesting too is when one of the goons drives into the toxic waste.
Yeah,
because back in the 80s, toxic waste was a huge issue with like a lot of companies like not taking like the proper procedures to dispose of them. So he wanted to make a point about that as well. And then obviously he comes this blob with this mutant thing, right? When
it's almost a play on like it's that body horror, which is it's kind of like it's in a way it's kind of what happened to what RoboCop really, wasn't it? Like the transition. I guess he was the one that set the events in motion. So it's his own sort of. Well, he gets his comeuppance, really, doesn't he?
He does, yeah, exactly. And then we see each goon get taken out one by one, and then gets to the final bit too, where was it Lewis and Clarence, like their cars clash together.
Yes.
And then he ends up shooting her, but then she's pretty wounded. And then a bit like another biblical reference, RoboCop comes out in the water, walking on the water.
Yes.
A bit like Jesus walking on the water.
Yes, American Jesus.
Yeah, it does, yep. And yeah, what was it? He walks across and one of the goons drops the crane thing on him and then kept him trapped. And then, RoboCop then ironically enough, uses that arm. If he didn't have that arm reconstructed, that had the USB port thing, then stabs Clarence, and Clarence finally gets his up and comeuppance and then dies.
Yeah, he does. And I think there's that final line when he's I think it's when he gets his humanity back, when you arresting me, I'm not arresting you anymore.
Yeah.
It's that revenge, which is a very human thing.
Oh, it is, yeah.
I think that sort of wraps up that whole identity theme.
Yeah, definitely. It's brilliantly done too, and very it's again like very gory death too. The neck, with his blood spurting out and stuff.
Verhoeven's over the top violence.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah, and I think too because obviously Lewis is quite injured. She's got like 3 or 4 bullets in her, and then he goes, "Don't worry, you'll be all right." The OCP fixes everything, wasn't it? Something like that. I was like kind of like playing on the irony of it all in a way. Yeah, and then we get to the final scene. RoboCop goes. He's speaking of revenge, he's got to get old Dickie boy, right?
Yeah, he does.
Yeah. And then something we see too, because there's all the police are on strike and things out of control. It's the perfect opportunity for all the ED 209s to be released. So they're now kind of the de facto police.
Yeah.
So.
And then we get up and he obviously takes out the ED 209. Gets up into the boardroom, and I think before he gets there, there's a bit where old Dickie boy, as you call him, is going through the company values, and this is how we're going to face the next challenge with these, the fucking stupid values that they're just right on a wall, on any company's about page.
The founding principles, yes.
They've mistaken their values for something you can put on a web page. Well, let's just fucking say that shit and do what we want. As long as we got them on the webpage, it's okay,
Yeah.
It's that whole thing.
It's our core principles, what we really truly believe in. Yeah.
Fuck off.
We're all a family here. Yeah.
Fuck off, you wanker.
Yeah.
But he's playing into that whole corporate shit,
Yeah.
Which is great. And then obviously RoboCop gets up there and
he puts
the CD in, and where
Well, with the USB port thing, what
yes,
his
he
finger,
does. Where old Dick Jones has admitted.
It's also got his blood on it too. I like that touch. Yeah. And where old Dick Jones, he just couldn't help. He had to do his evil monologue. If he just didn't do that, everything would have been fine.
Yeah.
Fatal error. His ego got in his way. He almost got away with it. If it wasn't for that bloody meddling RoboCop.
Yeah.
Well, that movie kind of talks that kind of thing, doesn't it? Yeah, it's great.
Scooby-Doo reference.
It is. Yeah. But that's the Then Dick back to a hostage situation again. He grabs one of the board members, puts the guns in the head.
He grabs the old man, doesn't he?
Yeah, he does. Yeah, grabs the old man, and then that gun's in that same position again, like in the opening boardroom scene. But by doing that, he says to him, he's no longer an employee of OCP, therefore he can take a free shot at him. So
he can.
RoboCop just goes full on, obliterates him, shoots him through the window.
Yeah. And
he falls to his death, old Dickie boy, and the old man thanks him.
And then we get a thumbs up at the end, don't we?
Well, what did he say? He asked him what his name was, and he turns around and goes, Murphy. And then gets a thumbs up, and then the credits roll.
Oh.
What a journey it takes you on.
What a marvelous piece of cinema.
It is, yeah. It's funny, watching it again, I remember why I like this movie again. It's so, it's start to finish, it's great. It's about an hour 40, runs pretty smooth the whole way. It flows well, gets you thinking about a lot of different topics and things, but then also it's a bit of an easy watch as well. So
Yeah, Verhoeven has this way of like, it's probably Neumeier. I think it's the both of them, Edward Neumeier and Paul Verhoeven. They really have this way of showing this like social commentary with humor on really serious topics, but never does it seem preachy.
Yeah.
Like, and I don't know. I think that's a lot of that is probably Verhoeven's upbringing. I think when he was sort of normalized to violence, we always established in the Starship Troopers episode that he was brought up in Nazi-occupied Holland near a V2 rocket facility that the Allies bombed the shit out of. So it was like violence to him is sort of nothing. You know? And I honestly think that's a big part of it.
Absolutely, yeah. Just as well, I was watching a YouTube video on it. It's by a YouTuber called Heavy Spoilers. And yeah, he said right in the credits, there's actually a nod to like a parody thing where it says, if you commit copyright against this film, the robot overlords will come after you or something like that. It's like a nice little touch at the end. I thought that was really funny, like a little Easter egg there. Yeah, it's funny, it's clever. Cool. Yeah, it's such a Paul Verhoeven thing to do. Yeah. There's satire everywhere, no matter where you look. So it's funny. It is like remembered well, but like it's not. People don't consider it in the same class as a Terminator or maybe a Predator or something, right? It's kind of, it gets a bit forgotten about in some ways, I'd say.
Yeah. Again, it probably suffers from the same thing as what Starship Troopers did at that age of the blockbuster.
I mean, it was a commercial success, but Starship Troopers wasn't really. But yeah, I think because it was so many action thrillers action movies back in the 80s, right? So many different, like your Rambos and your Terminators and things like that. So it kind of got lost in the mist of it all, but it's still not as remembered as it. I think it deserves more, being a higher accolade than it is.
Yes,
yeah.
And the concept, right? The mix of violence and satire and political commentary would have really been quite alien at the time, wouldn't it?
Absolutely. Sorry. But yeah, it's. Obviously they tried. They did I think they obviously did RoboCop 2 and 3, which were a bit. I remember watching them once. Didn't really like them. I think they're a bit disjointed.
Yeah, I've not really got a memory of those.
Yeah,
perhaps we'll do them one day.
Yeah, I heard some things are good, but then it gets a bit stupid. It had its own ass a bit, and then they tried to reboot it back in, was it 2013, 2014?
Yeah, I saw that one. That was from memory. I think it took all the satire out. I might be talking.
Yeah, it took itself too serious. Yeah,
it wasn't.
Yeah, with that remake, as you said too, it cut the satire out. It was not. It's kind of like, it's one of those movies where it was just because it was a bit of an in-between movie. So then it's not memorable. It was like not terrible, but not great either. So just like kind of, it was just meh,
Probably like the Total Recall remake.
Yeah, a bit similar. Yeah. Well, I think this was what I said earlier. Came out 2013, 2014. This was when Hollywood was starting to run out of ideas and started rebooting franchises. So RoboCop was one of the first ones to get it, unfortunately. So definitely not a trend. At first we thought it was a good idea, but now it's like, it's just getting milked to death. Please stop. Yeah,
it's already dead.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Well, before we wrap it up, anything else you want to say about RoboCop?
No, I would. You haven't seen it for a while. Definitely got the DVD, dust it off, or the VHS. Give it a watch. It's aged very well, and a very good movie. Not in my top 10, and I don't think it's better than Starship Troopers, but fantastic film all the same. Yeah,
I'd say like it's with Starship Troopers in comparison, and say because your top 3 films, you'd say what else? Total Recall, Starship Troopers, and RoboCop. Yeah, I'd say if I had to list them, I'd go Starship Troopers 1, then RoboCop, then Total Recall. If I had to,
I think, I'm with you on that. I think Starship Troopers and I think Total Recall. Look, I haven't seen it in a while, but I think there's more satire and social commentary in these. Where I think Total Recall was very campy, wasn't it?
Yeah, it has camp there. But then I'd say like they're like, I wouldn't say like 1, 2, 3 be like more 1A, B, C as opposed to they're all brilliant in their own ways, right? Yeah.
Or very memorable.
Yeah, exactly.
And all cult classics.
Yeah, exactly. So Andrew, what are we doing on next week's episode?
Next week's episode, and I'm very excited about this because this is my favorite movie of all time. 28 Days Later. Yeah, no, that's interesting. Yeah, because I remember watching that about 10 years ago, and I liked it, but I didn't love it though. And this has been like your holy grail movie, so interesting to see if I
like change my opinion or not, or see how we go. It's kind of important because the new 28 Years Later is coming out soon, isn't it? We should be releasing around the time this comes out. Yeah,
well, yeah, it's it will be, and look, I mean, I'm so excited for 28 Years Later. I mean, I got to tell you, when 28 weeks, so the movie after 28 days, 28 weeks later came out in 2007. That was 18 years ago. I reckon every day since I saw that movie, I probably Googled when is 28 months later at the time, but months have become years, hence 28 years later.
Yeah.
And I've just been blown away in the last 6 months. The way you obviously saw the trailer and the
it was very intriguing.
And the absolute stir that caused online. I think it's going to be the movie event of the year. I mean, we've been starved of good movies post-COVID, really, haven't we?
Yeah,
the
definitely.
only real memorable one I could say is probably Oppenheimer, but I think
probably right. Actually,
I've got high hopes for this one, and I'm certain Danny Boyle will deliver the goods.
Danny Boyle, yeah. No, I was looking forward to going into it, and looking at it from a fresh perspective. I watched it at a time when zombie stuff were very oversaturated. I know it's not a zombie movie technically, but it's that kind of trope was very...
Yes, it's not a zombie movie because they're not dead, but
we'll
get into that.
Yeah, we'll get into that. But
I know.
You know what I mean? Like that post-apocalyptic kind of thing was being really milked to death, and I was probably watched it at the wrong time. So no, I haven't seen it for 10 years. I want to go in fresh.
And you know what's ironic about that is it came out at a time in 2002 when it's the one that
sparked it all.
Sparked it. Rejuvenated the whole zombie genre when it wasn't technically a zombie film. So it's interesting.
And I'm looking forward to watching it again. And I said, like, first perspective, especially seeing it from the eyes of the podcast as opposed just to like watching it as a movie. So, and I'm sure it's going to evoke a lot of themes and thoughts and stuff as well. So, we'll do a deep dive into that next week.
Looking forward to it.
Yeah, as always, guys, follow us on your favorite podcast platform, whether it's Spotify, Apple, or even Podbean. Follow us on Instagram at Dystopedia Pod. That's also same for our Tumblr. And recently, Andrew launched the YouTube channel too. Where can we find us there?
So that's at Dystopedia Podcast. So you won't see any recordings of myself and Matt yet, but you can, if you prefer to get your content on there, you'll see that on with a few visualizers. So all of our videos are up there as well.
Well, we might do a face reveal one day down the track, but we'll keep the mystery alive.
Yeah, one day we're probably going to have to, but yeah.
Also send us an email at info@dystopediapodcast.com. So any suggestions or feedback, let us know. Happy to read it and go through it. And any suggestions for future episodes, let us know too. So happy to look into that. But on behalf of myself and Andrew, we'll catch you next week.
See you next week.